Hello, and welcome to my channel. I am Damien Marie AtHope. In the simplest terms, I am an atheist-humanist philosopher and prehistorical writer-researcher at DamienMarieAtHope.com. I am specifically an axiological atheist. An axiological atheism can be thought to involve ethical and value theory reasoned and moral argument driven apatheism, agnosticism, atheism, antitheism, antireligionism, secularism, and humanism. Axiological atheist can be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. As an axiological atheism's ethically reasoned and constructive pro-humanity. I am an axiological thinker, value theorist. The science of goodness, worthiness, usefulness, valuableness, virtue, reliableness, accuracy, validity, morality, integrity, beneficialness, etc., etc. We axiologists have a value consciousness. And in general, we see the architecture of humanistic humanitarianism value in people that we see as dignity beings. Places and things are not. Axiology is a value theory. In its broadest sense, it involves areas of philosophy that are deemed to encompass some evaluative or evaluation aspect. Therefore, it crosses almost all domains in some way or another. Now for a more detailed terms as to what I am. I am an axiological atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, secularist, humanist, rationalist, writer, artist, poet, philosopher, advocate, activist with schooling in psychology, sociology, as well as I am an autodidact, self-taught in science, archaeology, anthropology, and philosophy. I promote science and am against pseudoscience, pseudo-history, pseudo-morality, things that are found in religion.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing. We're going to be taking next week off, so I'm doing a pause on, doing the Mesopotamian stuff we normally do, and I decided we would try something a little bit lighter. I want to do interview with Skeptic Nikki, so
Perfect.
Join us. Thought it'd be cool. Something good for us to do a change. We've been doing a lot of political stuff. Figured we go back to a little bit of atheism.
Yeah.
Not that I mind the political stuff.
It's always nice to switch it up a little bit.
Yeah, I just figured, especially since we're taking a little time off, I figured, we'd go ahead and do something, break it up.
Yep, for sure.
So everyone knows that it's going to be, we're going to miss our next normal, second Saturday, and we're going to go after that. So, and then we'll finish that up. And then after that, I think we're probably going to do the show on, doing pseudoscience, pseudo-history, pseudo-archaeology. Sometimes, this stuff is complicated, and also I think that sometimes either archaeologists are talking in a way that, or historians are talking in a way that can be confusing to people when they try to address these issues. Also, there can be some bias on either side. I mean, archaeologists obviously don't want to hear from people that are not archaeologists, and I don't think that actually means that they're inherently that they're against non-archaeologists or non-historians, whatever, bringing stuff up. And I also think that people that are non-archaeologists or historians have this overinflated opinion of their opinions,
of course,
as opposed to people that are skilled in history
and
archaeology. And so I think that
non-experts often have that.
So experts can have, in a sense, an expert bias, but a lot of people have a bias against them. Just like I've heard people from counseling,
Yeah.
I have a degree in psychology, and I did amazingly well. I mean, it suits me. In fact, I could have made a lot of money doing psychology. It seemed to me like just common sense. They would
Right.
like say something. I wouldn't even almost read the stuff, and I would say stuff. They're like, "That's really great. You really understand the literature." I said, "Well, actually, I haven't read it yet."
This just makes sense.
But I think,
Yeah.
but it's also because of naturally, I have an ability to understand people. And so, and also I'm a reasoned thinker. So because you put those two together, like you're logical and you understand people, well, then
Yeah.
this also is a good thing though, because this shows that some of the stuff, not saying everything, but some of the stuff in psychology is reasonable.
Right.
Like a reasonable person would come to similar conclusion, which is important. Like we talked before about axiology,
Right.
that once you understand how to assess things, like you and me come into similar conclusions for anarchism. You did reading, I didn't, and yet our thinking is almost exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not because I'm lucky.
Right.
I'm really thinking, and other people thought, and you've read, and you also think yourself, and so we come to the similar conclusions. Because if A, B, C, it shouldn't be, F.
Right.
A, B, C,
Yeah.
D,
Exactly.
There should be some sort of and this also goes to logic. When people say things about gods or whatever, they go A, B, and then the X, you're like, whoa, how in the hell did you get to X?
Yeah. You jumped there. Yeah.
And so I think that's the same thing with anarchism or socialism. People, I think they say things like, I'm like, yeah, and all of a sudden I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like this one guy, Marxist-Leninist, and I've already said before how I feel about them, and you as well. But I just want to say that he made a statement that I totally disagree with.
Okay.
Okay. He said communism didn't kill enough people. That to me is horrific. And I don't even think I even have to explain why it's horrific, even though I'm an axiologist. That statement alone is not a good statement. No. I don't give a fuck what your belief system is. Yeah. If you think that killing more people is a good thing to produce some future utopian, I think you're missing the utopian part even.
Right, exactly. Then it's only a utopia for you, right? Like, then you're just being a selfish person who,
I'm like, wow, fucking serious? That we can do better by murdering more people.
Brutal.
Yeah. So that's why I'm saying, like, in logic, A, B, C. What the heck? Where did that
come? How did you even get there?
I told you before, even if I agreed with that Marxist-Leninism is the way to achieve utopian, are you seriously saying that murdering more people is how we get to that?
Right. Yeah, no, that's right. Actually, I have some good news for you, but I got to say it off the air. So after the show, I'll have to remember.
All right, great.
Regarding Marxist-Leninism.
You're going to keep it to yourself.
I'm going to keep it to myself until after the show.
Yeah, well, and I think that it's what's amazing to me is even if you think that somehow authoritarianism is the way to go, which I personally
don't see how you can get there, but
I don't get there, especially if your goal is then to have a stateless, classless society.
Yeah.
How exactly does that happen from an extremely classist, in a sense, structure of state?
Yeah. It's just because they want to switch the classes, right? They want but also they don't want to actually give power to the workers. What they want is they want to have our party be in charge, and we get to decide who does what, and we get to decide.
Well, right. Let me just look real quick and see if she has responded.
Oh, okay.
I don't see her responding yet. Or asking a question. So anyways, one of the things that I feel like is that whatever there's a Marxist-Leninist state, they want to protect it and defend it no matter what. I mean, even if it has horrid things. And I told this one guy, the Marxist-Leninist that I was arguing with, because I don't usually do this, but once in a while, he said something about anarchism. Like, it's always failed, So So, but then he wants to say that Marxist-Leninists can't, succeed in their things because of the Borgies. I'm like, yeah, you mean the capitalists? Same thing that we have as anarchists.
Yeah,
the capitalists,
same
right? Yeah, same similar problem, but somehow you feel like our problem is our own problem.
Yeah, it's a problem with our philosophy.
An external problem.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay. Well, I could say the opposite is that our problem is obviously statism or Marxist-Leninist and capitalist.
Yes,
so
exactly.
we have dual problems.
Yeah, that's right. We have more than just the capitalists to deal with.
But even if we didn't, that was not even the point I was trying to make. I was trying to make that, and to me, it goes back to like I was saying about logic. An ethical thinker should come to ethical conclusions. Like saying we need to kill more people. What the fuck?
Yeah, you can't get there.
Wow. And then what? We're going to get to a society where we no longer kill people? I mean, glorifying killing as a way to get to when we no longer have to kill people. Oh God, that to me is crazy. But I wanted to say that, they talk, because he said, well, how would an anarchist, organize things? And I said, direct democracy.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I'm totally for direct democracy, which is funny to me. Totally for direct democracy under any capitalist system, but under a socialist system, it's unnecessary. Really? So
how do the workers make their voices heard?
They don't, obviously. This goes back to dictatorship part,
right?
Not for proletariat, but just dictatorship part.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the problem is, though, that's actually not true, because a whole bunch of socialists, even Marxist-Leninists that are on Twitter, at least, can't speak for the corpus of people.
Sure.
But they interact with me. Let's put it even better. Smaller group to be more accurate.
Right.
The people that interact with me that I have personally seen interact on Twitter, because I now have kicked off LinkedIn, and which I liked way better, and Facebook, which I was more famous. Both of these, though, so I can just talk about Twitter now. So the Twitter people, they seem to want to say that things like the gay family thing, which I think is also a wonderful thing, being now accepted in Cuba is a show that their system is better. Problem is, that was a referendum.
Yeah.
Did you know that a referendum is direct democracy?
Yeah.
So the thing that you loved about Cuba doing that was
actually
the exact
anarchism.
thing that I, as an anarchist, say we should do.
Yeah.
And you said is unnecessary in your system, proving that you either don't know or you don't care to know. Yeah. I mean, it literally is the thing. And they even were proud in Cuba that they would at 1,000 polling places, even around the world, to make sure, once again, what? Everyone can vote, meaning it's direct democracy.
Yep, that's right. Which, and I want to give Cuba credit for that, but also it's not the Marxist-Leninism framework that did it, right? Yeah, like I want to give Cuba credit for this, but also I don't want to be like that it's the Marxist-Leninism framework that did it, right? Like,
right? That's what I was saying about being ethical thinkers. Instead of being ideologues, right, that have no mind or whatever, just speak, we should be ethical. Just like if Marxist-Leninists did something good, I, as an anarchist, would not go, oh, it's terrible just because it's them and not us.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think that way, because I just feel like that it's not intellectually honest.
Right.
And I'm not saying that I'm perfect, because I'm not, but my goal is that.
Yep.
Not perfection, I mean intellectual honesty.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, if I could reach perfect, that would be great, but
but it seems unlikely.
Yeah, it's well, and I think that's one of the great things when everyone has a problem with anarchism is I don't really remember any anarchists saying that we're going to be perfect.
No, that's
what we say is we try to be the most fair, the most just, in the sense the most benefit for the most people, including the individual who's everybody.
Yep, exactly. And the thing about anarchism is too that it is a pragmatic worldview that can adopt evidence into it and change because it also incorporates the opinions and views of all the people within it. So
yeah. well, and that's why I think is a good system. I mean, it's like science. Do we like science because it's dogmatic and fixed? Or
Right,
do we like
exactly.
it actually adapts and it changes to, the best method?
Yeah.
So I yeah. Well, that's why I said why it's hard for me to ever support an authoritarian bullshit, because that's not the best method. I mean, it just isn't. It has never been. Like we've done the Mesopotamian stuff.
Yeah.
Through the history of time, from the beginning, freaking first, ruler or state or whatever, even pre-kings, it was the shit way to do things, and it really has never shown to be a good thing.
No, that's right.
So, and I do agree that, and like they say, that the, in a sense, rule of the proletariat, but the dictatorship part is the one that I do think that people should be like, government of the people. Okay, if that's what it's going to be, but it's never been that. That's just
Right.
horseshit, fucking talking point.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's like dictatorship of the proletariat in name only.
Yeah.
When really it's the dictatorship of the vanguard party.
Right. And even then, it's always a few, and then even fewer, and then one chairman at top who, like now, first is that they're voted in, but then now and they have term limits, but now even what's his
Xi
name?
Jinping.
Xi Jinping. Is that for China? Now wants to make it where you can do it for life. What a shocker.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because, and just think, just that alone. So what it showed in the evidence is that when you put someone in power, they want to stay forever.
They stay there. Yeah.
Right. Like a dictator.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal is not that the system of Marxist-Leninists produces people that really care about the people and totally disregard themselves. Oh my God. No, that's not true. Because then like I said to the Marxist-Leninists, okay, I will grant you that China has done a lot, to combat poverty or extreme poverty. But they moved people from $1.90 to $5 a day. But at the same time, they ended up with more billionaires than the United States.
Yeah.
And I don't get how you can justify billionaires in a system that you say is of the workers.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can't.
It's not. And then I told him it's state capitalism. And he goes, well, it's going to have to be that until capitalism is gone. It's like, so don't say you've won anything.
Yeah.
If your revolution achieved state capitalism as opposed to general capitalism,
it's not actually better.
And then worse than that is that, like I said, the fact that China now has more billionaires than even the United States, a capitalist glory hole.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the thing that really gets me about China is like the way that they imprison and attack like anyone who's uses drugs or anything. And I'm not a drug user person, but I'm so pro drug use. I'm so freedom to do whatever you want, right? It's your body.
Well, and that goes back to my thinking in general. The morality I feel is an anarchist morality is that you own yourself, or you have self-sovereignty. It's not ownership as in capitalist bullshit. Right. I'm just saying that you have rights and that consent. Does a wife own herself after the marriage, or does the husband own? Or the wife, if it's two women, or whatever. The partner. The point is, you don't ever lose that you own yourself, as far as I'm concerned. Yep, meaning that, of course, there could be marital rape or whatever. Because you not own your body? Fucking A.
Yeah. You're still able to consent or not consent.
You could be married and decide, I don't want to have sex. The other person has to decide, do they want to stay married? Not, can I rape you?
Yeah, that's right.
And that goes to the thing, too, that I see this bullshit of, because I'm pro sex work. And then, in other words, I'm not saying mandatory sex work. I'm saying I'm pro to people own themselves and have the right, if they want, to engage in sex work.
Exactly.
Not that you have a right to sex.
Exactly. Yeah. What a nonsense concept.
Well, it just sounds like rape, man. So you have the right to rape at will. Oh, yeah, that's bullshit.
Reminds me of when Oh,
the
go
people
ahead.
that call themselves, incels, involuntary, no.
The implication is that they're owed sex in some way.
First off, you can have sex with yourself, so you're not being removed from sex. You have a right to sex with yourself. You're right. Go down do it with yourself.
Yep.
No, but the other thing, even sex with others. So you could have sex with others that just look not as attractive. What you want is a high class or a very attractive person of whatever gender or persuasion you like. That's what most people like, people that are attractive.
Right.
You could have someone not attractive. I mean, when I went through high school, I had sex with different women that I didn't find attractive. I liked having sex with women, and some wouldn't have sex with me, so I just went to ones that would, because I didn't give a fuck. I wanted sex.
There you go.
So this involuntary bullshit, and even as a youth, I'm like, they're like, oh man, these women are stuck up. I was like, find ones that are not.
It's just a bunch of dudes feeling sorry for themselves. I'm sorry.
Well, I want to have a 10 model, and I'm a 3, and unless I can get a 10, then I'm just going to complain. Yeah.
If you're a 3, you better have a goddamn good personality. Like, come on, man.
Right. Some of the quality attribute besides your looks that can make someone persuaded to consent to have sex with you.
That's right.
But if they don't, it's not their fault. There's no right or demand that you have to be attractive or to be people to want to have sex with you at all, ever. And so that's what thanks. One person said to me, so what if people didn't want to consent to sex? Would you still be okay with sex work? I said, I'll be okay with the concept, but I wouldn't be okay with anybody being forced into it.
No, exactly.
If no one wants to do it, then there should be none.
Exactly. If there's people who want to do it, then sure.
But I'm an anarchist. I'm not pro forcing people. Fuck that.
Yeah. I've had a couple of conversations like that with Marxists because they use Marx as a fundamental building block of their anti-sex work stance, and they believe that no sex work can be consensual. And I get where they're coming from, because no work is technically consensual under capitalism, because we're all coerced into having an income, but also we get to choose what kind of way we make that money. And sex work is one of those choices, in the same way that I work at an oil facility or someone works in the military. Right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. People,
it's the maximization of our will, our personal sovereignty within the system that exists.
Right. Well, and there's a place, I can't remember now exactly, because I wrote a thing on it about my thinking, but I wrote a thing because there, I can't remember if it's Denmark or somewhere, but there's some place where they actually, I can't remember now, but somewhere over in the Baltics or something. Maybe it's Estonia. I can't remember now, but there's one of the countries that gives a minimum wage or something.
Okay.
Right. So my point is, so people are not having to have a sex work to survive. Right. And there's still a sex work.
So then, yeah, that's right.
So my point is that this also goes back to the
people still choose.
People can still choose to do this. I mean, there's news flash to people, male, female, and different genders. Guess what? There's people that like sex as much as there are people that don't, which I think you shouldn't shame people that don't want to have sex.
No, that's right.
I have an open marriage. I don't shame people that have closed marriages. I think that it's just a different option for different people.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, so that's why I don't like when I hear some people that are, poly or something, putting down other people. I don't put people down. I don't put people down that are celibate. There's no difference to me. As long as you are actively choosing it yourself, then it's a legitimate thing.
Yeah, that's
to
right.
me. I mean, and it's a non-legitimate thing if somebody's fucking forcing you, and that has to do with any kind.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah, absolutely.
But like I said, to me, it's just simple anarchism to me. Like, you value other people, you have no right to them. So, I mean, anyways, it's weird. It's weird. People make that way more complicated than even needs.
Right. I know. It's pretty straightforward, actually.
I'm like, you can practically build a whole morality system. But, but the problem, goes back to the capitalists don't want that, because then if people could choose, do you really think they would choose to live under capitalism? A lot of people wouldn't, right? Like millions of people wouldn't.
Yeah, that's right. We'd all be able to choose another system if we were had the free choice, right?
And that's the problem I have, I think, with the sort of authoritarian thinking, such as, some people, especially in the extremes of Marxist-Leninism, is that somehow they can choose for you.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, I have a problem with that beyond anything else, just that alone.
Yeah.
And like I said, the referendum was an honorable thing. Yeah, democracy is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's really weird when people don't apply. Even like we're going to talk to a skeptic, about atheism. I don't understand how people don't apply that kind of thinking, though, like all over the place.
Yeah, I thought, being a skeptic, that libertarianism or like anarchism was the natural progression of the skeptical worldview, because you accept evidence, you don't rule over anybody else. It all seemed very straightforward to me.
Hey, you made it.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Doing well.
How are you guys doing? I apologize. I have had a rough day. So
No problem.
No worries.
We generally, chat anyways. Well, so it was.
I am so sorry. I'm sorry. As you can tell, I'm still having technical difficulties because my AirPods are still not connected. So that's
the picture looks great. So, I mean, I see only half your face. Maybe just there you go.
Your audio's good, so.
good.
Yeah, the audio sounds fine.
Oh, great. Okay, good. I'll just go without them then. I don't know why my camera. Okay, it's like opposite. Okay.
So we're going to go ahead and ask you to pretty much tell us anything you want, but just remember, because you're being recorded, I don't like to cut stuff out.
Oh.
I mean, if it's necessary, I will. But I mean, what I mean is, don't tell anything you don't want the world to know.
Sure. And okay, right. Okay.
But I want you to feel free to tell anything you want. I mean,
right.
We're pretty open here and say whatever. So, and if you feel like you want to curse or not, that's fine either way.
Okay.
And,
so cursing is okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Because some people, I'm just saying on our show, we just keep it real. Just be yourself.
Okay. Awesome. Well, first, thank you guys so much for having me. I apologize for being so late. My whole day got kind of set behind and I had some technical issues. So I want to apologize and just let you know next time I will be on time. I appreciate that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes. They connected?
Okay. Yes, they finally connected. It's the simplest thing in the world, right? Getting AirPods connected, but not on a day like today. So I mean, what questions do you have for me?
So, well, just in general, go ahead and tell me, what it was like before. What happened.
Being religious.
Well, or whatever. I mean, you identify as being a lesbian also. Go ahead and I'm just feel free. Well, my point is, go ahead and tell us your life, like, what it was like before, or how you were raised is what I mean, that kind of experience, or before, like you said, being an atheist, what it was like, what happened, and then what it's like now, just as a general thing. But I'll ask questions, but go ahead and feel free to really tell us about you and tell us your experience too, because I know some people don't get what is it like being, a cis female in the atheist community. What is it like to be an African American in the atheist community? Because, have you gone to conventions? What has your experience been?
Okay.
Also, so, but start first at what it was like. In other words, your life before, knowing all this or coming to that conclusion.
Right. So I was. Give me 1 second. I'm going to improve the lighting. Okay, I had to improve my lighting. I was. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee. Go Vols! I'm a big Tennessee fan. Anyone who follows my page knows that. Um, I so I was born. Okay, so my parents are evangelical Christians. I was born in 1986, and my mom said that she'd been reading verses to me and singing hymns to me since I was in the womb. So she doesn't understand how I'm not religious because she started the programming prenatally. So um, she, yeah. So that was, oh goodness. Yeah. So I was raised in the church. I went to Christian schools. I mean, every lesson had religion behind it. You'll have to forgive me. My allergies are acting up a bit, so my eyes are a little watery. But
no problem. And if you feel emotional and cry, that's fine too.
oh
Well,
yeah,
I was saying that
probably not. But...
to me, just be you. There's no judgment.
Oh, good. Okay, well, thank you. Yes, I was raised in the South. There's really no exceptions to the rule. If you're born female genetically, then you express yourself as society expects, and vice versa. If you're, born male genetically, and yeah, so I was, sent to Jesus camp where ironically I had my first kiss. So I wasn't really following the rules at Jesus camp. I tried to believe and conform as much as I could. Besides being in school and going to chapel like every day. What was it? I can't remember if it was every day, but we would go to, prayer group meetings on Wednesdays and then, inevitably church on Sundays. Thankfully, they didn't have evening church, which I don't think my dad would have liked that anyway because of the football and baseball games, and basketball games. But yeah, so I sound so boring. My life was just kind of my life was kind of pedestrian, unfortunately. Well, actually, no, not really. I wasn't really allowed to do much because of Christianity. I wasn't really didn't think too much about being like attracted to women then because I mean, it never really. I mean, there were girls that I kind of had crushes on, but I didn't really think about it because it was like, well, you're not supposed to do that anyway. So it's just a fleeting thought. Just let it go. But yeah, never worked. Got saved, blasphemed, got saved again, and boring. Let's see. Okay. Finally, let's skip jump a couple decades to.
Well, it doesn't have to be boring. I don't. You don't need to feel that your life has to be some amazing thing. I mean, I was a street kid, and I did all kinds of drugs and crime, even street kid. In other words, I hung out at crack houses and gangs, and I wouldn't come home. My mom actually took a cake to the crack house. So happy that they were taking care of me all the time. Of course, they almost said that's about the last time I needed to be there because, what is this crazy? I thought it was the cops, shows up with a cake. Oh, thank you for taking care of my son, this whole summer.
That's a story I'm intrigued to hear.
Oh, yeah, but I have tons of things. I've been shot at, stabbed. I mean, I grew up in Southern California. I grew up around gangs. In fact, when I was younger, I thought, because where I was living, that white people were kind of a minority. But that's just because of my life
you weren't
where
from
I
Knoxville.
was raised.
Okay.
And also
yeah,
just how I ended up
experience.
choosing friends. But my point is, I care about you for you. You don't have to be exciting or special or different to be important, to be valuable, to be needed.
I'm sure. I just want to.
I'm just saying. So I just meant this. You don't have to give us some sort of thing that's exciting. You're enough just being you.
Oh, thank you. Well, the views will show how much they support that. But I know, of course, the world is. Yeah, I know. I'm just.
Fuck them.
Well, like I said, I can't speak for views, and I actually don't even try for views. I try to make real content and real connections, and if people like that, they do, and if they don't, they don't.
Okay, awesome. That's awesome. I sometimes do better, frankly, with me because I'll ramble. Sometimes I do better with like direct like questions because I'm like, all right, I'm trying to give like a summary of my entire life. So
Well, I'm
maybe
curious. How long have you been an atheist?
I've been an atheist for about 10 years. About 9 to 10 years. Excuse me.
Was there an inciting incident that caused you to like really question things?
I've been questioning since since I was born, because my parents were so oppressive with the religious indoctrination. So I remember like one like pivotal point in my life. It's kind of a weird one, but my mom, we were outside and she was watering the garden. Well, not the garden, but the like the flowers in front of the house. And we were outside. It was a gorgeous day, and I was like, "Mom, do people really go to hell forever?" Like I literally meant forever. And she was
Right.
like, "Forever, sweetie." And I was like,
Well, that doesn't seem
"That's
right.
not right." Yeah, like in my head, it wasn't right like ethically, and it wasn't right like logistically. It was like
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense at all. And I knew that it wasn't true. But of course I was conforming because everything in my family is about Jesus on both sides. So everything. I mean, my uncle's a megachurch pastor, but he's not an asshole, which is great. As opposed to my parents who are, the homophobia, the really hardcore evangelical like mentality, like Pat Robertson books, and they love that shit. But and so I question. And finally, when I got to like college, I dropped Christianity and went into the it's a standard journey. Deepak Chopra and that nonsense. The Secret, Science of Mind. I still have crystals. I've got Sanskrit tattoos from that stage in my life. And around 26, I kept questioning, did some reading, and then I watched the Bill Nye Ken Hovind.
Oh, the debate.
Not Ken Hovind.
Ken Ham.
Ken Ham. Yeah. Ken Ham debate. And notice I put is reversed. It's so weird. But yeah, when I realized Ken Ham literally had no argument outside of the Bible, I was like, oh, I've been had. I've been had. So I was like, okay, this is enough for me. And then I just started really digging into it. And I have a background, like my master's degree is in child development and family studies. I'm clearly not working in that right now, but this is part of my wanting to get back into it. Because I don't just like with this, there aren't a lot of there's no black. I mean, besides Mandisa, who is more of a grassroots person, she does speeches and stuff, but she doesn't do like debates and things. There are no black women doing debates in the atheist realm at all. There are no black people doing debates.
Do you find like debating to be a valuable tool in what you're doing?
Absolutely. Because people are going to come with rebuttals all the time. You have to know how to present an argument. You have to know how to dissect their argument and point out the flaws in it, and also be self-aware enough to point out the flaws in your own arguments. So that I was thinking about this the other day, like, why am I doing this? Why do I keep coming back to it? Because I did, I had Skeptic Nikki before, which had like a big following. And that was when I did go to the conferences, and I went to Reason Rally.
The first one or the second one?
The second one.
The second one I was at.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I have in fact, I posted today a whole bunch of like probably 30 or 20, I don't know how many, but probably 20 pictures or whatever of me holding my signs that I made with fans at Second Reason Rally.
That's dope. Yeah, like I actually was with he's a big part of my story, my poor ex-fiance, bless him. And I do use the vernacular quite frequently. Like I say, God bless people. I pray for you. I'm from the South. It's second nature. I can't not say it. It's like saying certain pejoratives I probably shouldn't say, but I do. But it just happens. But
that to me doesn't really matter. I mean, I don't do it, but it doesn't. I don't get hung. I find that just gotcha stuff in general. I prefer reason. So as long as people are being reasonable and trying to be logical, you know.
Oh, sure. Yes. Well, I will be careful not to use certain words, but you're talking about like the God bless God.
Yeah, I'm
God
saying it
bless
doesn't
you.
bother me.
Oh, good. Okay, because it's.
I'm just saying, that's what I was saying, is some people get a bit, I'm
Yeah.
a hardcore atheist. I mean, very hardcore. And
Yes.
hardcore anti-theist and anti-religionist, but I also am not like an ideologue. I believe in reason, is what I was saying. That's why I come to those other conclusions, not
Yes.
because of some bigotry or some, hatred. As I said, people should be able to be themselves. Really, that's, I think, a problem in general with religion. So I don't get why people that are atheists want to adopt that.
Right.
Yeah, it's a little thing. It's an interesting thing with me. Like people who are atheists and then convert to Christianity. I'm like, what? I mean, it's just such a blatantly false. And I have to preface this by saying, when I get into this, because I do really want to do this, like, it's a tall order, but I want to be more vocal. I know that a lot of people aren't going to want to talk to me because of my background. Like, come on, seriously, where are like the eighth? Okay, I was watching Godless Engineer. I love Godless Engineer. Shout out to Godless Engineer. Please follow him on Twitter and watch his content. It's excellent. And his wife, she follows me on Twitter. As she's awesome. Casey, they're both great.
Yeah,
But I was
he interviewed
watching.
me in Tennessee at the American
Really?
Atheist Conference. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I have interviews
That's
with
so.
Matt
Oh my
Dillahunty, with
God.
Aaron Raw. I mean, I was,
I love
yeah.
them both.
Yeah,
Aaron Raw is so much fun, and Dillahunty's. Yeah, I love Dillahunty. He was like, I was like, like you meet people and he's just looking at me like, you good? I'm not that big of a deal. I'm like, yes, you are, Dillahunty, man. You're doing like what I want, and I do want to like. So I want to gravitate into doing interviews as well. So Dillahunty is You did an interview with him. You interviewed him.
yeah, and he said that most people don't think as deeply as me. He was very impressed with how smart I am.
Oh, well, that's
Yeah.
lovely. Well, I'm
Yep.
glad that he complimented you in that way. That's a massive.
Well, so
compliment.
did Aaron Ross. Said that I know more about prehistory than other atheists, which is also correct. I
That's
do.
good.
I not to blow my own horn, but yes, I do, because I have been studying it for a long time, and that's been my focus. Because how I got it was not a debate or even other atheists of any kind. It
Right.
was going to college to be a drug and alcohol counselor. I had a degree in psychology, and then then I it was told that I needed to take 2 religious classes, and that in those classes, it's when I didn't even make it through the second class all the way. Halfway through, when they talked about how Satan, Lucifer, and the devil were different beings, even in that mythology, I was done. That right there, I was done.
I've never heard that before. I've never heard that perspective.
Oh yeah,
That's why.
Well, the serpent, it says, the most crafty of the creatures created in the garden. It literally says that. So, it's not a fallen anything. I can go into I don't want to go into all, but stuff. But Lucifer is a mistranslation. Has to do with the king of Babylon. So that never was Satan. Not now. Not then. Not anytime.
Not ever. Okay.
Not ever.
Cool.
So that's a total wrong. Lucifer should be. In fact, that's actually what made me a strong atheist. Is I told my mom that, and then she didn't believe me. And I said, it's in the Bible concordance, because I had an expensive Bible that had a Bible concordance. And so she looked at her Bible concordance, and it also said that. And then she said what actually made me very hardcore atheist. She said, I'm going to believe anyways.
Yep, I've
and
heard
that.
that.
Like chills in my body. When I
Yeah.
heard her say that, I thought, wow, I don't ever want to do that.
Yeah, I don't want to be like that either.
I want to be running into the truth, not running from it. And so I'm done. There's nothing to believe. I realized, wow. I started thinking like a rationalist. You have to have a justification to believe something. When you call something true, it's also axiology, but when you call something true, it's a claim. When you say something is evidence, that's a claim. When you say that something is a fact, that is a claim. It needs a justification of supporting something to actually give it meaning in a real sense, not in just in a sense, epistemic sense, a philosophy type of, because people can have, in a sense, epistemic confidence, which means that your knowledge or your belief is built on, in a sense, some sort of good support that other people would agree with, like science. They say this is true. This is to say that there's actual space outside of the Earth, and the stars are not just hanging from, little sticks or something, like some of the ancients used to believe that they're somehow hanging in the sky, that there's actual space out there. To say that that's a fact, which it is to say that science has, in a sense, demonstrated something justifiable to accept as that.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm with you. I agree with you, and that's why it's a tough thing for me to be religious. But there's a lot of social pressure. Even doing something like this is a risk to my social support system. My family is very religious, and my aunt and my uncle have asked me. They asked me to be like last year, because I'm just trying. So my thing is, I want to maintain my support circle. I really do. I've already cut off my mom and my dad, and my siblings, my two sisters, because of their rejection of my sexuality or who I am as a person. And my aunt, and my uncle kind of have, they reached out and they were talking to me and my brother about it, and they're supportive. So, and
I feel for you. I feel for anyone who comes out and then they're not supported. I think it's horrid.
It's hard.
Justify
it's
it with
horrifying.
religion is not acceptable.
It's horrible. It's horrible. I'm a very family-oriented person. I love my family, and having to cut them off is hard. Very hard. There's a lot of tears and a lot of pain, but they don't care about that. So when it comes to Jesus and their views, they are inflexible, and they won't budge. They don't care at all. My aunt even tried to try to mediate, and my aunt or my mom supposedly shut that shit down immediately. But as far as the atheism thing, that's my biggest concern. My brother, doesn't care. My brothers don't care. My aunt asked me at the beginning of the end of last year if I was still an atheist, and I was like, no. And I was thinking, well, that's based on my, other definitions of God, but I should have just been straight with her and been like, regarding your God, yes. But I didn't want to do that because I don't want to but even she was like, when you were engaged to your ex, and I was doing weddings, I was still willing to we still love you. I still wanted to help you put your wedding together and everything. So I get it. If that's who you are, I totally get it. Because I was like, well, it depends on, she's like, are you still an atheist? I was like, it depends on the day and the definition. And I didn't want to come out straight and say, yes, the Christian God.
What you mean by that? And if you don't feel you're an atheist, could you explain what you mean by that also?
I'm definitely, when it comes to the theistic Abrahamic God, an atheist, of course. Regarding other gods, definitions, well, I guess generally, yeah. If you're talking about God being something vague, then no. But yeah, I hate to say it. And when this gets out, I just have to come straight out with it, I guess, because there's a lot of risk. Because I live in the South, and everyone I know, especially, besides, my neighbor, my best friend, her girlfriend. I'm thinking of Black atheists I've met organically. My ex.
Not online through the atheist community.
And not through the non-believers. Yeah. Let's see. My ex is an atheist. I don't know if I'm not going to talk about her. I'm not. My ex is an atheist. My best friend. Yeah. So there's a few, but it's not, when I went to acting classes this past year, my acting coach is probably one of the smartest people I've ever met. He's amazing. But he's a Christian, and he would say, use Bible verses during classes, but he always used them. Like, he would always wrap up the class with a Bible. That's what he does. He wraps up the class with a Bible verse, but every time he uses it, it's like in a functional philosophical way. It's not like a religious way at all. He's like, just use this to go kick ass and take over the industry. And it wasn't like an oppressive use. So I didn't have a problem with that.
There's some good things in the Bible, like, telling the rich person to sell all they have, give it to the poor. Now
free.
that, hey, I'm 100% on top of that.
But but also too, there's a contradicting view that you're supposed to build up. Trust me, I'm telling you, man. You can cherry pick your way into a massive
really
house.
Bible supported. There's nothing in the Bible that says you should build up wealth that I know of.
My aunt would disagree. When I went to go see their house, and it's dope. I mean, like, triple paid. So, which is great. I mean, but they've been friends with him. Like, they've known him since my uncle played football with him. So, like, they're really close to him. And it's weird. I've never met him. Every time my uncle is like taking me to his house or his office or whatever, he's never been there. I'm just like, where is this person? But no. She was like, the Bible says something about having wealth here on earth. And I'm like, I like that idea. I'm not upset with it. I like money. I want it too. And that was one of the things that really upsets me, is like, I really wish, and this isn't like, there are two things that I wish. Well, there's a few, but one of them's kind of silly, like kind of a flippant wish, like, oh, if I could choose to be a race or a gender, it wouldn't have been a Black woman, to be honest with you, like, based on just the type of person that I am. But that's like kind of a silly thing. But I do wish that I wish I could be a Christian. I do. Well, more than anything. And I wish I was straight, because that would be, my life would be so much easier. My brother says the same thing. He's just like, oh, straight people. I wish I was straight. I would have had a wife. I would have had the house. I would have had all of it, because it's hard to find partnership in the gay community, especially being Black, because racism is really bad in the gay community too. It doesn't go anywhere. It's actually amplified, because you're already marginalized. So you're going to have the little bit of power you have, you're going to really grasp onto it hardcore. But I wish I could be a Christian, like, really do. I really do, because the power and the support that I would have in my community and my family. Oh, my dream job is to be a megachurch pastor. My dream job. I'm serious. I would love that. Just to be able to. It's an entertainment position, and it comes with beautiful rewards and power and you're backed by a deity. So you get to pretty much do what you want and ask people for jets and fuck bitches and get money. And it's just like, and you get to like be watched.
That sounded a lot more like a sports star.
There you go.
Rock and roll.
But you don't have
the pastor has these rules too, and these, you can lose your whole congregation and thus your whole livelihood just by being found out. I mean, so I don't know that with the
NFL as well. Like, you go, we were talking about it last night at dinner. If your ACL doesn't get ripped out, you could go assault someone or do something foolish and lose everything. You could, this day and time, say the wrong thing on social media and lose everything. The same threats are there, but at least with the God, you could just, oh, well, I've repented. And
what's his name? Jimmy Swaggart. I repent. I'm sorry. I found my way.
If God forgives me, then you should as well, because, he who has not sinned, or who he is without sin, cast the first stone. And I feel that if God can be forgiving of my inevitable sins, because I'm fallen just like you, and that's why I need Jesus, obviously. Where are you? Are you saying that I'm not? There's only one perfect. What are you talking about? Like, so no, and it's a dream job, because it's like a rock and roll. Yeah, you're up on stage, you travel the world. Oh, it's lovely. So, but I can't. I can't do it, and it would be it would be a natural progression for me, because if I was a Christian, I would be a pastor, and I would immediately go to my uncle and tell him because I obviously feel the need to do something in this field or realm. It's attractive to me, and it has been for so long, and it's I want to do like those types of, I want to do speeches and other things. It's like the reverse of it. So I'm not going to be a megachurch pastor, but I do want to be influential in some regard. So, yeah.
So you said you went to conventions and you did stuff. So you've already done some of that, or you just visiting?
No. Well, yes. Actually, Anthony Magnavosco and when I went to the Nashville. I went to a couple. I went to a convention in Ohio with Mandisa to help Black non-believers. I went to a convention in Nashville where I met Dillahunty, and then there was another convention, I can't remember where it was, but I was on stage with Magnavosco. Did you say go on or hold on? Or?
No, I said right on.
Oh, dope! Yeah, it was dope.
A figure of speech that I use from where I'm from.
Oh, no, I've heard right on before. I thought you said hold on or go on, or I was like, okay, but no, I've heard it. I like right on. I probably will pick that up again, actually. But yeah, I was invited to do. So it was during a time I was unsure about how I wanted to progress with my atheist career. Now it would be a dream, but and it's possible. But I was invited to go to the next Nashville conference the following year and be on stage with Dillahunty and Magnavosco. And it hit me. I was like, if I go on stage with Matt Dillahunty, I will never be able to change my mind about what direction I want this to go. And because at that time I wasn't sure, like, do I want to be in the public eye this aggressively? Do I want the world to really know who I am? Because living in the South, like even the job I have now, which is I'm having like stray hair issues. But like even the job I have now, the company is very religiously based. Sorry, I'm having a Janet Jackson level wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah, I feel you.
Well, I was absolutely, that's part of my personal like Black thing journey as well, as Black women in their hair. You already know somebody got slapped this past year for making fun of a Black woman's hair. So it's another part of, it's hard to relate to as a man, I'm sure, but women in our hair is always a hot mess. But so I didn't know. I was like, I didn't do it because I was like, I don't know. Because if I go on stage with Dillahunty, it's a wrap. So, but now
why do you feel that? Just wondering.
Well, it's a wrap now too, but I'm accepting of it. I'm cool with it. He's huge. All right. So if they see me, with him, they're gonna be like, who's that? Black woman, what? Black woman atheist. That's weird as fuck. Because it is. And they're gonna start looking, and then people who do. I hate working for other people. I really do. And one day I'm not going to, but people who do, look for me and stuff are probably gonna see it and have questions and So, but now
what would you say that the message you want to get across, besides Matt Dillahunty, you though? What is it that you wanted to get across to people?
Back then, like when I was asked to do the conference. Oh, now?
Because you said it would be a goal.
Now. Now. Okay. So right now, I want people to feel safe and comfortable. I want to encourage people to be more critical of their religious beliefs and the beliefs that they've been indoctrinated to. Well, their religious beliefs, and to be more cognizant of how they came to those beliefs, and understand that it was through indoctrination, not any type of logical conclusions. And they can justify, because of course that's what apologetics, is to justify belief through a logical perspective. And as they attempt to do that, it becomes more and more logical. And the arguments that they present, I'm saying generally, and when I say they, I'm thinking specifically of Christians. People always ask me, why don't you go after Muslims? I'm like, the
'Cause I'm
only
surrounded
Muslims I
by
know are,
Christians.
yeah, like the only Muslims I know is like my landlord and like the maintenance guy and pretty much half the neighborhood, but they don't bother me except for when the kids are up at 2 a.m. banging on shit. Then they bother me, but that has nothing to do with
Well, I
religion.
don't think that just because you said you're not sure if you're an atheist or whatever, but I'm an atheist and I'm damn sure of it. And I know a lot about a lot of different religions.
Wait. Did you say? I'm sorry. Did you say I wasn't sure if I was an atheist?
Well, you said that you're an atheist towards certain deities.
Oh, specifically, yeah, of course.
And
I
then
try
you
to
said
be.
you're not as sure about other ones. Is that correct or not?
Yeah, like the trees.
Right. I am sure. There's no such thing as a deity of any kind. There's no such thing as supernatural anything, let alone ghosts.
Well, sure. I
Any
mean,
kind of supernatural powers. It is just not. It's
sure.
not. It's not supported by evidence. It's not
yeah.
supported by science. It's not supported by logic. And logic it has to relate to the natural world. And so that's why I find it hilarious when they act like God comes first and then logic. No, to me,
it could be a God. A God could be a physical thing as well. That's why I'm always like, if people, the definition of God is so vast, and there's 7.9 billion definitions of it. So that's why I'm like, if you define, okay, I hate to bring up Rick and Morty, right? So like there's this episode of Rick and Morty, the Show Me What You Got episode with, I don't know if y'all have ever seen it, but
yeah, I watch Rick and Morty.
Really watch cartoons.
Okay. So you know that
I don't play video games either.
Oh, okay.
I'm boring. All I do is study prehistory.
Oh,
and
well,
so, yeah.
a little bit of fluctuation might be helpful. I don't know, maybe one day, but definitely not for Rick and Morty, or video. I don't know, but like there is. Okay, Cory, you said you watched it.
Yeah.
Show me what you got.
Yeah, that's the one with where they have to perform for the beings in the sky.
Exactly. And they show up and they look like C-3PO heads basically. And they're just like, show me what you got. And they're asking, they're like, is that what, humans, right? They're in church, they're doing rituals, we're doing weird things that we do to try to, appease it. But that would be probably considered a god of some sort to us. So fine. If you want to call that a god, I'll believe in it because it's there. That's what I'm saying. Not that there's some type of supernatural things are not a thing. So
well, it's certainly not supported.
Exactly.
People go,
right.
Oh well, science has it wrong. Science has proved that supernatural was not the cause of things since the beginning of science, including, even in Mesopotamia and Egypt. They started realizing that's where science, in a sense, people say it comes from philosophy. Well, it's related to philosophy as far as empiricism and rationalism, but it actually is before that because it has to do with mathematics, learning that certain things have to follow patterns, and so they're grouping things together and they're realizing there's a logic to that, and there's a reason why that logic makes sense, and then it's like what I mean by that. It's like chemistry. If you add element correctly, you end up with this result, including in metallurgy, which the Copper Age is. It comes, in the Bronze Age and the Iron Age. When they were doing metallurgy, they're calling it magic, but they're already realizing, in the sense of science, in a element kind of way, that you put copper and you put arsenic and you put tin in a certain amount and you end up with bronze or whatever. So the point I'm saying is that same with fire. You realize there's a certain amount of A equals B equals C. So you start to me, science is the rationalization of the natural world. It's like looking at the natural world and accepting it as it is. And from the beginning of that, it's never been magical. In fact, they become less and less magical when they realize that they're just calling it, like you said about the term God. God is a term. It's not a thing. It's not it's a concept, a philosophical concept that's being added to other things.
Right. I'm listening. Yes. Yeah, I'm actually.
In fact, the Greeks used to believe that our breath and stuff was a spirit. Our genius was a spirit. Like when you have intellect and thoughts come in your head, they thought a spirit or a deity or whatever kind of thing was giving that to you.
Right, of course. And,
So,
but thankfully that's incorrect.
That's no different to me than just adding the term God wherever you want randomly and then saying, oh, well, you know, that, at least for me.
Sure. Exactly right. And that's what I'm saying. Like that concept, depending on whatever very different definition people have. If you're like, I believe that God is a tree. Okay, well, I believe in your God then. Sure. I mean, like, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, I even make like facetious remarks regarding like celebrities that some of them are technically gods, but like that's not really like a thing. So yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Well, just like when people say atheism is a religion. Well, if you call it that, you're misusing the word atheism or you're misusing the word religion.
Yeah, well, theism isn't a religion, so why would you
theism
call
itself, the belief in a God, just like people don't grasp that even before that, I've been not studying, animism, the belief that things have magical agency, doesn't have to do with gods. In fact, a lot of animists do not believe in gods.
Yeah.
Although they believe there are magical forces and stuff. Just like they don't always inherently believe there's afterlives because they believe there is no boundary between life and whatever, that everything is an existing spirit. So, but my point is that it's the later classification that starts adding this thing. But I think the biggest reason is because it's these agencies that we have no control of. They're just in the world, like you said, a tree.
Yeah.
That's not actually going to do much for us. And a tree is not asking us to hate gay people.
It could, depending on what attributes you give to it.
Well,
it could.
But I'm saying in and of itself, that you can't logically go to someone and say, look at this tree and it hates, a certain race or a certain. I mean, it just because what? Because it only grows in this area.
You could, but that's actually the problem. Is that it's harder to. I would say it's easier for people to attribute those traits to like something physical because they could at least come up with something physical in the environment to try to justify their argument. For like example, the God of the Bible doesn't like gay people. Okay, well, like
how
that's
do you know?
Right, and like they could try to. That's obviously a decoupled being, so that they're trying to. Let me see what I'm saying here. So this is an individual that does not exist in actual reality. This is a person who existed within their own mind. So trying to give a perspective or trying to speak for that person's perspective is more difficult. But if you walk up to a tree and it's like, well, this tree is obviously racist because, whenever someone of a different, a black person sits under the tree, they get struck by lightning or something. Like we have evidence of, these trees growing predominantly in areas where slavery is common, or we have what I'm saying is if someone wanted to like say a certain physical object was like represented a certain ideal, it'd be easier to do that, although it's not true. I don't know if
it doesn't have to be logically consistent or anything.
Right.
It doesn't at all, but it would make like I guess what I'm saying is I could absolutely see somebody doing that. Coming up with
people have pointed to rocks and said that rocks relate to things. Even in the Bible, it talks about when I think it was Abraham.
Moses.
No, I think Abraham.
Moses.
When he first went to Israel, he set up a group of rocks.
Oh, okay.
In a grove, trees, to in a sense in reverence to God and also claiming the land. Because this is the importance of rocks is important. Me and Cory talked about this in our Mesopotamian stuff. They would put a rock as a boundary stone. So going somewhere like Israel, right, that you supposedly God's given you, and putting a bunch of rocks in a big pile, could be seen as claiming the land as yours.
Yeah, I find it humans' development of legislation around land ownership to be very intriguing. I work in mortgage and I'm kind of a nerd. So reading through all of the legal documents and seeing just kind of like how we developed all of this and how land has fallen to certain groups is interesting to me. But yeah, something like that is always, it's intriguing. But yeah, like when it comes to religion, I want people to know, especially in the Black community, that you were taught to believe this as a result of slavery. Our religious beliefs, generally speaking, in Africa, now there's a clear delineation between an African American and an African, and they are not trying to be associated at all. They're like, we're not African Americans now. Don't look at us like that. But of course, in America, you Black, you're Black. But yeah, our religious beliefs were more animistic back in the day. And then, of course, upon being captured and brought here, being indoctrinated with Christianity, as that was the justification used for enslavement, using the Old Testament specifically. I have always questioned why African Americans are still so down for Jesus, being that was what was used to enslave us and kept us enslaved, and it still does. It's very effective. The people who enslaved African Americans, when I think of it, I have to be cautious when I talk about this topic, because even being African American, people don't necessarily understand, like, I can, like, that. Well, when I speak on it, people can still get offended. But when you're owned by somebody and being treated like chattel, they're using certain practices to, like, okay, sorry. When people started, word of mercy. Okay, so when people started breeding wolves to make them more complacent, so they could use them as like in their homes as companionship, or as we breed animals to make them more docile and to make them more receptive to instruction. That's what they did with Black people. Husbandry was used to breed the strongest, most complacent, docile peoples, because that's who is less likely to rise up against you, but can do the most work. And, and so that's why a lot of, we're the athleticism, was intentional. So, like, you got to do this work long term. We need you to be strong, and the big strong, Black, and not all Black men, but like, most, we have these, stronger, like, large, more bone density, muscle mass. So, but that's not, it's just not physical traits as well. It's emotional traits. So the complacency, and also killing off those who were encouraging, like, mutiny, and buck breaking men, like big Black men, like the bigger, the stronger, they would, like, buck break them, like bring everyone out, and, like, this is your alpha, or this is your king, basically. And then bend him over a log and, like, beat the shit out of him, and then rape him, and then kill him, and then bring in the second strongest one, and then do the same thing, but leave him. So, like, as Black families were separated, as they are now for similar reasons, but like, the women are the ones who are going to be, no, babies, don't go up against the master. You need to stop it. And, we need to follow Jesus. Jesus will protect us. And it's just like, it's one master for another. So we were free, but we still have a sense of oppression. And there is still systemic oppression.
First off, me and Cory are both leftists. So
I don't care. I'm sorry. I don't want to say that, like, to be rude, but, like,
no. I was just making the comment that we both are anarchists, so we both totally care for the plight of anyone being under suffrage and stuff. And absolutely, America still has all kinds of segregation, all kinds of systemic racism. Even is to the point that it's bled over into other. I was raised in California. And so it's not a shock to me hearing of the Hispanics being against African Americans. That was the reality of when I grew up. In fact,
but it's
I
also
was
like
told
that
to
in
choose.
jail and say what?
I was told by one gang of Mexicans to choose. I had both Mexicans and African American friends, Mexican American friends, African American friends, both in gangs. And they were fighting each other, and I was helping both. And then they said, "You need to choose.
No, you got to pick one.
You're going to be the one we're going to attack next."
Yeah,
I was going to say, you're just going to get wiped out, because, like, you're right. That's how groups are.
But I'm just saying, so it's not. I do not believe America has achieved that yet, and nor do I really think it's actually trying.
No, but we won't though. I mean, listen, and I want to apologize for my flippant I don't care initially. The reason I respond like that is because so many white people are like, oh, I'm, Black Lives Matter, and I'm just like, you don't. Not that you don't specifically. I'm sorry, I have to be careful. I have to be careful because like I feel like sometimes like when people, here's what I'll say: when the Russians come, will you let me on the train? That's all I'm saying. Because
Right.
it's always,
Yeah.
oh, all the Black people, oh, and then, but then when the Russians come, am I on the train or not? I won't be. So like, that's why when I had that, I'm sorry, I always had that flippant, like, cause it's like, oh, well, I'm this, I'm that. And not that, like, you guys are both wonderful. And I'm not, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but I get kind of like,
Well, no, a
I did
lot of
sound like an
people,
asshole.
they say
I
stuff
did.
they say stuff's convenient. Like they'll say they support trans people or gay people.
But they
And
don't.
they do, as long as they're not challenged. If they're challenged at
Exactly.
all, then
As
all of a
long
sudden
as
they
there's
don't.
space on the train. Like,
Yeah, that's
because
right.
everything's so progressive until the Russians come or there's
I
an
would have voted for
emergency.
Obama for a third term.
Have you seen Get Out?
Yeah.
That movie? Yeah. That's what the dad was saying.
Yeah.
And that was Jordan Peele's whole entire point. He was like, oh, sure, it's this group of people is kind of the worst. Like, because at least with like Republicans, they're like, listen, certain person, I don't like you. I'm like, oh, cool, thank you. Like, I know to like avoid you because you're not putting on a front. But with certain when you start getting more like middle to the left, it's like, oh no, we love the Negroes, and like it's like, no, like, stop it, you don't. Like, some people do, like, but even one of my best friends, she married a white guy, and she gets hell from her family, his family. One of his family members, they were at an event, and she just was like, oh, she's I don't want to say my friend's name, but his grandmother, the husband's grandmother, was like, oh, she's so good, she's just like the Help. And I'm just like, the
Wow.
hell? And I was like, girl, what did you say? And she was like, what could I say? We were at a country club. I was surrounded by upper class white people, but she is trying to, but like but like, even though her husband is like, oh, I'm progressive, blah blah. No, he still doesn't treat her very well sometimes because of it. And it's so, like, I apologize for really, like, I don't care. Like, I didn't realize I need to be careful because sometimes things just come out and I'm like, I shouldn't have said that.
Well, you should be able to be yourself and also know that you're going to say stuff that's going to offend people. And so then you have to caveat. I know that I say stuff that offends people, probably not in the way that, as you would say, someone in the center would, because I'm a far leftist. And so,
it's ironic. I'm actually like not, well, I'm not a political person, but my ideals are more about like money, like socially. I'm more left. Money wise, I'm more right. But that's just because I like it. And I don't like, I want a lot of it, and I want the taxes to work in my favor. So that means getting out of the proletariat to a tax bracket that, and also like, learning the ins and outs of finance and manipulation, because I wasn't taught those things at all. So yeah, but when it comes to like,
my thing is, I want a world where we
politics.
don't judge people off of money, where we don't set up systems that only support one if anybody.
I want a world where Sylvester Stallone breaks in my house, and I'm gonna bring him up. I want a world where Stallone breaks into my house and makes me his wife. So,
but that's consent. So even if it's
that's not the point. The point isn't that. The point is it ain't happening. Homo sapiens we are just like, okay, so there's this episode. I use everything with like examples because I try to draw analogies. I love the show BBC Planet Earth, I think. I think David Attenborough narrates it. There's an episode, it may not have been Planet Earth, but it's one of their subsidiaries. But like, I was watching an episode where they had these Japanese monkeys in a like a mountaintop in Japan, and there were this breed of monkeys, and they were in a hot spring, and it was a big hot spring too. It was nice, and only a few of them were in there, and it was ranked. It was by rank who was in there, and whoever else tried to get into it. Sorry about that. Whoever else tried to get into it, they were like chase them out. So like they're strata even in other species. We're not going to be doing that.
Well,
The most important, yeah, like we're just not doing it.
Well, but you
I
spoke about-
gotta. Sorry,
You can make
I disagree.
Yeah.
Quit. I disagree. I think that humans have the capacity to do more than we have in the past. And
We have the capacity, sure.
And I mean, it takes time, it takes effort. Like people who want a progressive, an actual egalitarian society have to do the work. But and it's not going to be easy. I don't want to pretend that it's going to be simple, but I do think that it's an achievable goal.
It absolutely. Speaking of Africa, so South Africa or South Central Africa has some of the oldest indigenous populations, that are unchanged in a sense in the world, and they for 15,000 years, relatively. I mean, not saying, because there's been a lot of colonialism, a lot of bullshit, but relatively the system hasn't changed much. It's still animist only, and animist in the sense that I could read you three different. I'm not going to right now, but I could read you three different types of these. I'll send it to you. Three different African. They're African, right? Systems, and when you read it, it's beautiful. It made me change from, even though I'm a hard anti-religionist, I thought everything was the same, because a lot of atheists will say all religions equal the same. Well,
no, exactly. I don't think so. That's not
exactly
true.
Especially, like I said, it also gave me hope that it's not a fantasy, that you can have a system where women, children, everyone's equal. Everybody, no one's a leader. There's three groups that there's no one's a leader. Everybody works together. Possible? There's almost no rape. It's not impossible. It's just impossible with our type of thinking. It's a value system.
I'm wondering like how just evolutionarily that's possible, because all animals shake out into a hierarchical system. So even though
that's what I'm saying, that's a belief that not all animals are hierarchical. They are not. There are hierarchical systems of animals, but not all animals are hierarchical, and humans are not inherently hierarchical. In fact, hierarchies, as far as looking at the evolutionary behavior, it's about 40,000 years ago with totemism that there started to be a hierarchical system. Hierarchies are not inherent in humans. They aren't. The resources has a big thing. Like you talked about resources. If there's a limited resource, that's why you don't really see it in South Africa, where there's a lot of resource. But when they went up to Europe, where all of a sudden you have frozen stuff and not that much food and one small lake that and other ones not, they're fighting against things. You see it that people started to become different.
So I have a question. I have to interject, because I don't understand the statement humans aren't naturally hierarchical. That's simply not.
They're not.
Can you demonstrate
hierarchy is a cultural? Hierarchy is a cultural thing.
I'm sorry. It's simply not. Because when you put animals together,
that's not true. Hierarchy.
That's simply not true. Because
an inherent thing for people. It just isn't.
It is. When you put a group of people together,
this is like saying, because there's a puddle, it has to be that a perfect hole was fitting the puddle. The puddle filled up because of the water coming down, not because the puddle was in itself perfect, ready for the water.
No. What I'm saying is that when you put a group of humans together and they start interacting and they start realizing they have some type of common goal or common interest, the very function of that group to be productive, it implies a need for hierarchy, because somebody has to be doing
hierarchy as a main system really started 7,000 years ago. 7,000 years ago. Before that, there's no genocide.
That's not what I'm saying.
After that, there's the first genocide. It's a whole bunch of them in Europe. And
that's
then
not true. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
True. I can give you links to talk about this. After 7,000, from 7,000 to 5,000, there is a humongous drop in the DNA of males. Males in relation to females. It was one man for every 17 women. I can give you a link.
That's not what I'm referring to. I'm not even talking about that.
Well,
I'm talking about
then. And right after that, 5,000 is the first state in Mesopotamia.
I'm not even talking about. I'm not talking. When you're talking about okay, I'm sorry. Let me make sure we're defining hierarchy the same, because I believe you're talking about like government or a social hierarchy. I'm talking about like if you get 5 people in a room, like on a basketball team, and someone who's played sports, like when you get a basketball team together
that already has a bunch of values attached to it.
So what I'm trying to say is that
if you put 5 people together that aren't about trying to win over other people. So I'm just saying the system you're already talking about, sports. Sports is not everybody does their best and we all appreciate effort. Sports is about who is the best and who can win. It's already a closed system that has a closed dynamic. So
life is already about
the dynamic.
Who's the best. Yeah, but that's right. Hierarchy is a dynamic in life in general, because the objective.
It's not in general. You talked about a closed system of sports, which has closed goals.
Life has a closed goal. Life itself.
What's the closed goal of life? That's the question.
Goal is to
so is racism? Hold on a second. So you're saying that racism is an inherent in all humans?
I want to answer his question because Cory asked a great question. What is the closed goal of life? It's very simple. Very simple, and we all know what it is: to stay alive, to get as many resources for yourself and your family, to keep them alive, and to make as many babies as possible before you peace out of here. That's the point.
Assuming resources aren't scarce, which they aren't actually, they're just limited. We have an imposed scarcity, and their resources are hoarded by those with wealth and private property.
Yes, and that's because hierarchy. That's because of hierarchy.
Yeah, an imposed
just looking
hierarchy.
at a bell curve. Just looking at a bell curve. It is an
imposed hierarchy. It's not a natural hierarchy.
It is
natural. It didn't always exist. It didn't always exist.
No. My point
is natural. It would have existed right from the start.
It's natural that people compete. It's natural that animals compete. In the competition of for resources, that someone's going to be better and someone's going to be worse. Just in that natural competition, and it ain't just humans that do this. There are other animals when resources are available.
There's other examples. Like I don't recall the exact type of ape, but there was a research done on a bunch of apes that when they're in their natural environment where they have limited resources, they had a very hierarchical society kind of structure where they would compete for these resources. And then at some point, a landfill moved in near where they were. And it affected...
This is Sapolsky, isn't it?
It changed their behavior. Because
this is Robert Sapolsky, right?
So they suddenly had no hierarchies, and they were more egalitarian because they had abundant resourses.
So when I say...
The effect of resources, the scarcity of resources is the
right,
problem.
And that's what I'm saying too. I'm not saying, like I said, to me, the reason animism did not continue in Europe, why it changed, was because of multiple groups going in separately and seeing themselves as separate groups, likely. And then the other factor is the resources is different. It's different to survive in a place in Southern Africa where at the time, including even now, we all come from Botswana in a sense, genetically. At least let's say not every single part of your DNA, but everyone in the world, right, has a part of your DNA that has an ancestor from Botswana that came from about 70,000 to 100,000 years ago.
I know.
Everybody in the entire planet. So when we all came from there, that was one of the, in a sense, refuge at the time of the most plentiful, now it's changed. A lot of the climate is different, but the point I'm saying
physical, that's not the only contributor to hierarchy. It's not just food. There's other contributors as well, like sexual selection.
Yeah, but
the size of family.
Rape, like I said, rape. So incest, there's a genetic drop in incest from 40,000. Anything before that is a higher level of incest. And after 40,000, when obvious structures are being built, then there's a drop in incest. And
I'm sorry,
So it's
That
not that
doesn't
inherently. What I mean
negate.
is, it's not inherently like, because before there's a rule, right? There should be no reason why, if someone wasn't sex and they have power, they can't just take it. If what you're saying, that if sexual selection is only that, sexual selection is something, once again, that's arbitrary. Just like I said, there's a DNA drop of males 7,000 years ago. If
It's arbitrary, but it still indicates a preference, and people who
a
are
forced
representative of that
preference, just like
preference,
sports, nobody
it's not
has to play
forced.
sports.
I'm sorry, the peacock, the tail of the peacock, it's not forced. It is a natural process of evolution that the female peacock prefers that trait. And because the female peacock prefers that trait, hierarchically, Lord have mercy, in that system, it's natural that those males are going to have preference, which is going to put them above sexually. It's not just resources.
But
and
all animals are also
into,
all animals that have engaged in sex have been noticed to have homosexual behavior or bisexual behavior.
how's that relevant to what I just said? I'm
Because
sorry, because I'm talking
your
about like
hierarchical
preference.
system. I know, but you're saying a hierarchical system is inherently one way, and I'm saying every animal that has sex has been demonstrated or witnessed, or what do you want to say, to be, in a sense, able to be bisexual and homosexual. So there's not this hard line of only
I'm
males
just talking
towards
about sexual
females.
dimorphism. I'm talking about sexual dimorphism and the development of sexual dimorphism over time. And
Right.
that is a
And guess
result
what, for
of
humans,
preference.
My concern is that doesn't justify the hierarchies that exist within society.
No,
Like,
and that's my point. And like, I'm not saying that humans can't be better. I'm just saying that given the fact that as Homo sapiens, as primates, as animals, that we are naturally inclined to deviate towards hierarchy, we need to be aware of that. We are. I'm
Well,
sorry, guys. When you
I
put
think that
a
it's a
chick, you
diff-
put it's just not.
It does-
I'm sorry. Like, it's not.
you can have a hierarchy of values, but like a hierarchy, like I was just watching something, a hierarchy where you have a line where somebody's at the start and somebody's at the end. That's a hierarchy, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about hierarchies of
think we're talking
domination,
about-
right? Where
Yes,
people are
and
and
right.
that's not natural. It's always imposed.
Oh, sure. And like when I'm talking about, no, actually, no, I don't think that's true.
well, like
you
I said,
mentioned
so if that's true, though, then
Sapolsky.
there shouldn't be these indigenous people in Africa that have kept their culture that are not hierarchical. Then are you
They
saying
are
that they're
in some way.
the aberrant? They're the weird, right?
So they're no, and I would even say they are hierarchical, even if they don't want to be. And this is, and I would say that because when we're looking at this system of human beings on this planet, there's a hierarchy. There's a hierarchy. So as far as resources are concerned, and they have a lower amount of resources, they don't have any really type of cultural influences. And I know that's by choice, but which is good. I mean, but even within their groups, somebody is the leader. There's always a leader.
No, but I'm saying that they legitimately do not have leaders. No, every culture of the world does not have leaders.
So
The society,
Well, they may
the
be
community
choosing
makes
not to have a
people
leader, but
are-
I'm saying they don't.
So when people are doing this, right, and they're like, I want this, I want that, I want who goes, all right, here's what we're gonna do. So that's it doesn't even make sense, because at that point, it's like the chiefs and the Indians, or like, I don't know the analogy,
they do
but
cultural things like we would do, say, called democracy, probably.
But at the end of the day, there's a president. Like, we still have to get a president.
Democracy doesn't have to have a president. In fact, we even had.
I mean, in our
fought a war
democracy,
with
we
England,
have a president.
and at the time we fought the war with England, we didn't have a president either.
We had a leader. Somebody was leading something. I mean, it's not possible,
I think,
for there to be any type of directed.
Well, but I'm a leader, and yet I'm not, in a sense, over either of you. I mean,
but in your own environment, probably with your
leadership can be a
family.
behavior. All you're saying is somebody that guides people, but a teacher guides people. They're not, in a sense, the hierarchical.
They're the leader. In that system, they're the leader.
What is that? That means hierarchical. You're saying that a person. So if a scientist talks to you, they are hierarchical above you because they know more science.
In that
philosophy.
I'm sorry. I was going to answer your question. In that environment, yes. In an environment where I'm interacting with scientists and we're talking about something that they specialize in, absolutely they're the leader in that situation. So in that situation, I am below them, and there's a strata there. So I'm not saying that environments. My point is, and this is shakes it. It's not just us guys. I mean, lobsters were the first, if I'm not mistaken, 300 million years ago to demonstrate hierarchy. Lobsters even know this. I mean, it's ingrained.
Well,
The
we're a
whole
long way from
midbrain.
that, though. Like,
Well,
Right,
I
but
would
that's
say
my
that
point.
it's
Like, my point is that this
380
is
million years
ingrained.
ago that a shrimp started carrying the young inside of a pouch in the body, showing that actually it's a natural thing for us to care for others.
Sure,
That doesn't
but
make the
that's
mother
trait.
hierarchical.
Yes, it does.
Because
That
she
when
has a
it comes
pouch to
to,
care for them. So caring
yes,
becomes
because in
hierarchical.
caring, yes, yes, absolutely, 100%. When you are looking at, you go to Walmart, right? And you have it's very simple, actually. When you go to Walmart and you see a mother with 4 children, the hierarchy is evident in their treatment. She's the one who's at the top. The oldest one is also sharing in the caring.
But you also have a social
And
dynamic that already exists. Like indigenous
yes,
North
you
American
do.
tribes often had communal parenting, where it wasn't about one mother who was, taking care of her kids. It was the community cared for the children as a community. It was very horizontal.
And
It was very like there's no one person above the rest of us. Everybody is sharing in the decision making, and everybody is sharing in the responsibility, and everybody is sharing in the rearing of children.
so when the Real Housewives get together at the park and they're having an argument, which housewife says, "Listen, bitches, my name is Nene Leakes, and I'm going to run this. And I know everybody is sharing the responsibility of caring for the children, but y'all want to go to and I'm using the Southern African. Y'all want to go to the park, and y'all want to go over here, but we're both gonna. I don't either. I'm just saying. I was just trying to use like a communal situation with various ones. Hell, we'll use the PTA.
But even in that, so you can have consent where someone is more skilled in something. That's not an illogical thing, but it doesn't make it a hierarchy. Choosing the person, in other words, a scientist is not the best philosopher. A philosopher is not the best scientist. That doesn't make any one of them sense over each other. Both could have the immense knowledge.
But if they're interacting,
that's like saying the mechanic is the hierarchical over the scientist, because when it comes to doing cars, the mechanic is better.
That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying in certain No, I'm not even. What are you saying? No, I'm not saying that. When my point is that within a closed system, when there are individuals interacting in a closed system, somebody is going to be recognized as being more competent and going to be given the responsibility of delegation, and that is just.
Well, there's a difference though between consensual situation where people recognize expertise and competence. Mm-hmm. Like Bakunin said, like in the what is the quote about? In the making of boots, I will refer to the bootmaker. Like, there are people who know how to do that better than I do. But that doesn't mean our society is a hierarchical, naturally dominant based hierarchies, right?
And often I would say that in a hierarchical system, we don't end up with all the best bootmakers being made. Sometimes it's the ones that are most famous. It doesn't mean it's actually the most quality or the best. The system is not set up to hierarchically only promote that which is the best. Are you saying that all the leaders that we've had in America, the fact that they got there was because they were the actual best?
No, that's unreal. That's not even. No, that has nothing to do with it. I'm talking about that in a closed system, which is the earth with human beings, there is a hierarchy, because even though, and I understand what you're saying about the resource allocation, even with diminished resources.
The easiest way to say is, like you said, closed system. And the closed system where everyone had equal access or fair access to all resources, are you saying that we would still have a hierarchical system?
Yes, I am exactly saying that. Absolutely saying that. I am saying that. My concern is that I don't think that, like, in if everyone has equal access to the resources, we know that people can have communities where hierarchies of domination don't exist. Like that's happened in many indigenous North American tribes and in indigenous African tribes in the past and presently. And even in like even communities where they are being dominated by the outside, like in Rojava, they have a very horizontal structure within their own society where no one dominates another, even though they do have like military leaders that help in the defense, right? Like, so in their like, so there is a hierarchy, quote unquote, hierarchy, but there isn't a hierarchy of domination, right?
There's the delineation between what we're both talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm on your page because I'm thinking, I'm like, what are they talking about? Like pecking orders, wolves, like dogs that run in the street, the freaking cat outside. There's this asshole cat. Okay. That like, I don't know if you all have ever seen like Trailer Park Boys, but there's like, it's a joke. It's like Trailer Park has all these stray cats and like one guy cares for them. I'm like, dude, like, that's what it's like out here. And there's this asshole cat that runs shit out here, okay? And it's like, I know like there is a...
But some of that has to do with conditioning, all animals.
I mean, I know.
There's like my cats. People say, oh, you can't call. I call their name, and a lot of times they'll come running to me. But it's because of how I interact with them. I interact with them in a very loving and safe way. When people feel they've got resources, when people are in a system and they feel valid and acknowledged and cared for, even if you have things where, as you said, some people are more skilled, that's always going to be the case. There's always going to be people that are more skilled than other people, but that doesn't equal, like I was saying before about Matt Dillahunty and Aaron Robb both said I was very smart. I don't use that against people. Even religious people, I don't try to belittle them and make them feel bad, because I feel that ethically how my behavior should be is what matters. So more
I'm just saying that in a pecking orders and animals as they align in nature. You mentioned, Cory brought up, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, a study that Sapolsky performed at Stanford. And, you know, he's been studying baboon behavior, and he talks about the dominance.
Baboons? Was it baboons? I thought it was, but I wasn't sure.
Sapolsky is, I've had dreams of being in his classes just to wake up and realize I haven't been in his classes. But he talks about the dominance in mating, dominance in hierarchy with baboons, and also talks about how the transference of emotional mistreatment between mothers and daughters in a certain hierarchy. For example, in a group where one female is hierarchically above another, if the if that dominant female mistreats the mother of a lower female, then that dominant female's child will also mistreat the child of the lower female. I'm pretty sure I didn't state that study accurately, but it is along those lines.
Almost like abusive domination systems reproduce themselves.
They do, but it's not something. I mean, unlike us, which we can, and you're right, we do have the capacity to rise above that. You know what? You know what? Let's say this: we have the.
We don't generally. But that also is because, in other words, the system of America is different than other systems, even other nations. Everyone doesn't equal like gun violence. Amazing. Access to guns does not equal the same gun violence in America as it does, say, in Norway or Sweden. You can have the same amount of guns, but you don't have the same amount of actions being taken as far as using guns in a violent way against people. I'm just saying, so it's not inherently the gun. It's not even inherently humans. There is an unbalanced thing of violence. So the American system...
know. Because with chimpanzees... No, because chimpanzees, they are very violent, and they kill for personal reasons. They do commit
They're also
genocide.
very sexual and use sex as a way of coping in all kinds of ways that we don't.
Yeah, humans do that too.
Well, no, we don't make friends and have sex with them.
Yeah, we do. Wait, what? I'm sorry. What did you say we don't? Say that again. We don't what? I'm sorry.
No, I was
Yeah, I just
saying
heard.
we don't use sex in the same way that chimpanzee does. They use sex for almost everything. We do not do sex in that kind of a way. They do it with their children. They do it with spouses. They do it with friends, with enemies.
You just defined
they use it all the time.
You just defined the church. I'm sorry. We are horrible. Like we.
Well, I would argue
but that's an aberrant behavior. That's not normal behavior.
I would argue that that's not.
I am aberrant. It is. We will do it. But my point is that no, it's not. Of course, it's not widespread. I'm just saying generally we can't say that everyone doesn't do that.
Well, I would even say that even if that was, let's just assume that, say, raping people was the norm. Even if that was true,
with baboons, I think half of populations are raped.
Well, they may do a lot of rape, but even dolphins rape. But the point is that doesn't mean that, like Cory was saying, that we don't have to choose that, nor should we value that, nor should we strive for that, and we should strive for its opposite, that we don't rape people, even if we wanted to.
Right, and I'm saying like that's something that I don't know, guys. Like, I feel that in our society, of course, Pinker indicates we are in the best time possible. Generally, people are living longer. You know what? Yeah, he does get a lot wrong. And that's why I brought him up kind of as a conversation, like to kind of direct towards where I'm going. I'm not necessarily sure if I know that's what he says, and that's why I brought it up. He says this. I don't necessarily know what the parameters are that he's using to judge.
I mean, he does a fairly good job of like comparing the torture methods and the domination in the world, the fighting in the war of the past.
Right.
But
yes.
But
right.
He's very apologetic, I guess, or like he makes excuses for the way that things are done now, or ignores certain things that are done now.
Exactly. To try to make the point stick. And that's why I was like, Pinker says. But I'm skeptical because I feel like what we're doing now is we're just better at covering things up.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel that because there are still horrific things taking place.
That's like saying just because there's not as many lynchings, we shouldn't care that Black Lives Matter. That's a fallacy. There shouldn't be that sort of systemic racism, period. Let alone that it has to be to an extreme amount. Any amount is not okay.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I agree. I do challenge. I just think about those monkeys in that hot spring. Like that's always where I go because. And what I've learned and what I've read and what I've studied about human behavior and its comparison to other species, primates specifically, and then, of course, trickling down to other mammals, I would struggle to believe that we will ever be able to move out of this dominance hierarchy. I don't think it's within our nature to do so. I know that. You know what this reminds me of? The movie. Have you seen the movie The Platform? It's on Netflix. I think it might still be. Well, it's a quick summary. Is that the platform is basically this big concrete platform that is in a prison. The prison has, I think, 40 levels, and you can either spend time in the prison to do studies, or spend time in the prison to live out a sentence, spend time in the prison. There are criminals, all types of people there for various reasons. But the name of the movie comes from this platform that starts off at the top. And at the top of the prison, there's this elaborate kitchen. Before you are put in the prison, they ask you, what's your favorite food? And they put this, the favorite food of every person in the prison, there's like 2 people on each level. So the favorite food of every person in the prison is put on the platform, and it starts at the top level, and they just bring it down. And at the very top, just destroying it, like ravaging it. And how it works is, the platform descends, people are taking all the food. and by the time it gets down to the bottom, there's no food. And the sentences, they move you from level to level during your sentence, and it's a 30-day time period that you spend on each level. So people at the bottom, when they, and this goes back, of course, to resource scarcity, but like basically the point is, I believe it is in our nature to hoard, and I believe that is an evolutionary benefit that survived as a result of, as you were saying, limited resources, diminishing returns as a result of hunting, gathering, as before, Homo sapiens or Homo.
Well, just so you know, too, as far as like say hoarding, when you were hunter-gatherers, before sedentary societies, you had to carry things with you.
Yes.
So that limits, because of that.
To do that.
It limits
it's
your ability to hoard. That slavery is something that happens probably, it looks like, after that, like 10,000 years ago it starts. 12,000 is when you start really getting the beginning of sedentary, then and doing agriculture. Once agriculture gets more formalized and into a unit or a closed system, then you get slavery. And then slavery only gets worse. By 7,000, even worse. By 5,000, it becomes state norm. And then
how do we get from hoarding to slavery? I'm sorry.
Because I'm talking about resources. I said in hunter-gatherer societies, they don't really have slavery, and they don't have really hoarding of resources, because when you move around, you don't have the ability. Also, when you don't have storage, let's say for meat or something, you share it. Sharing becomes part of the culture, as opposed to.
I'm sorry. I just didn't know how. Yeah. I'm sorry. I
was talking about evolutionarily, because you keep using that word. I was just saying I do know a lot about how we transition from one stage to another. I studied from 100,000 all the way down to 5,000 in all the cultures of the world. That's what I've been doing. That's why.
No, I understand. I was trying to follow. I'm sorry. I was talking about hoarding behaviors.
Right, and I was saying hoarding behavior is a new phenomenon.
Slavery.
That's what I know.
I'm sorry.
Not that they may not have wanted to hoard some at the beginning when they're hunter-gatherers, but the level of hoarding really only takes place on a very systemic and finite kind of a way is once it becomes sedentary.
I'm sorry. How did we? You're right. How did slavery? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just didn't know how slavery came. I was like, yes, hoarding, and then you're like, and then slavery, and I was like,
well, because that's a hoarding behavior. Slavery was a hoarding behavior. Oh yeah, taking people and making them work while you don't, and then grabbing their resources that they produced, right? Because they're working.
Okay, I see the connection. Okay.
So you
that makes sense.
Grab, steal people. One was sex, because they absolutely did sexual hoarding of women, but also you wanted
like heaven. Sorry.
Well,
I love that.
Well, like having a whole bunch of people that consent. I'm in an open relationship marriage, so I mean, having more people have sex with is but I do relationship anarchism, actually, which is that we don't have hierarchical structures. I don't try to be the male gender. She doesn't try to be the female gender. And we've had sex with others. I've only had sex with women, but she's had sex with both men and women. But the point I'm saying is that we don't our whole system is not set up in a hierarchical sort of a thing. What it is that you learn to treat everyone in a relationship. Anarchism is, like he was saying, horizontal. Everyone's equal. I don't own her. I don't own the sexual right to her.
Okay, I'm a monogamous, so I'm a serial. I am so, and not that, and honestly, I know humans aren't monogamous. I know that. Like,
well, but I would counter that though. I would say I don't agree that statement is too global. I think that humans are different. Period. Some humans are homosexual. Some are not. Some are straight.
Yeah, but monogamy speaks to.
I'm just making a comment. So I'm just making the same thing. I don't agree that either or is crap. I think some are not monogamous, but I do believe that it's not impossible that some are. I don't buy that. I don't
predominantly
see a homogeny of all humans being a certain way. I do agree that the homogeny has been forced to where everyone's supposed to be monogamous. That is not accurate.
Well, but
I also don't think that everyone is inherently non-monogamous. I don't. Just like I said, I think some people don't even like sex. They're asexual. They don't want to sex with anybody, or they find no attraction.
Well, monogamy
So
and polygamy are separate from sex. So you can be like, because you could be in a monogamous relationship with someone who you're not having sex with, who is homosexual,
true.
asexual.
I agree.
So I believe the predisposition towards non-monogamy is based in a human's propensity to have tournament relationships. So like males competing for females, and humans are not traditionally pair bonding. So like the parental duties aren't necessarily shared equally with humans, as far as like the female caloric expenditure towards the maintaining the life of the offspring. Typically women obviously we got to carry it and all that nonsense. And so females, basically what I'm saying is, depending on how much parental care the male puts in, that is what determines the monogamy or non-monogamy of the relationship. So I believe because humans are traditionally a tournament species, that and most of the care fell to the female, that monogamy was not traditional with us. Like not, I believe that most humans were not monogamous, but we're serial monogamous. And I believe because Sapolsky talks about that. But now that there's more opportunities for pair bonding, and men, even though men are still competing, I mean, they're not out here fighting like they used to be. Which I like that. I like that idea. I was like, I like that. Maybe we should have men fight it out in the ring for mates.
But that's like saying, to me, there's a difference. That's like saying that someone could like rape play, but not actually like actual rape. You see what I'm saying? So
yeah,
one is like a fantasy.
so,
I mean,
that would be great.
Wrong with that.
I'm joking. No, I know. I'm a kinky. You follow me. I put some wild stuff on my page.
Right, but I'm just saying. I'm not saying you don't.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
I was just making a comment that I think that there's a variation.
I made it about me. Sorry.
Well, you can talk about you. Go ahead.
No, there's a variation. There is. Yeah, there's a variation. My ex, I I looked at him. I was like, smack me across the face. He was like, no. I'm like,
I'm sorry, this isn't going to work out.
I'm like, this is not working for me. I need it. If I'm going to be with a dude, you better. And but you said, Damien, that's just me. I talked to my best friend. I was like, she's like, you asked him to smack you? I'm like, yes. She's like, girl. I'm like, you don't want that? She's like, no. I'm like, all right.
But that's what I'm saying. There's a variation. That's why I don't agree when people globalize and say all are. Like saying everyone's non-monogamous. I don't buy that. More than I buy that everybody's heterosexual. I don't buy it. I don't buy this all or nothing thing that people push.
It shouldn't be.
And
I guess I was trying to determine,
I think some people without kink, they can't get off. And there's other people, if they experienced it, they couldn't emotionally get over it.
Right. And I guess what I was saying is, right? I think my ex might be too. Like I think he was like, I can't even imagine. And I'm like, no, but like, I guess what I was saying is, oh no, humans are not a monolith. I think I was just trying to think, like, I like to say evolutionarily, because that's pretty much what everything comes down to, what our predisposition might be. That's what I was saying. I don't think, because obviously our predisposition is towards heterosexuality. Thank goodness for that, or we would have been wiped out. If all the women were like me, we would have gone the way of the Australopithecines. We would have done. So, a long time ago, because I was like, no, you are not going to impregnate me. I will not be laying up under you like that. You are not going to, like, that's not happening. So, no, I was trying to determine, like, maybe what we may have, what we might be predisposed towards. And I do think that, just like with other animals, whether they're pair bonding or tournament, their relationships are they're influenced by that. So that's what I was saying. And obviously socially, we've had so many different changes since agriculture that have switched that up. So
I like the carefulness of what you said, and that's what I'm trying to say in general. The tendency, the influence,
disposition,
those are not the same as all or nothing.
Exactly.
So
That's
I
right.
think that's also why, to me, like in understanding philosophy thinking, when people make a lot of statements, a lot of times they overgeneralize. We like to overgeneralize. You know why? It's simple.
Yeah, I don't like that. Well, I do it on, well, overgeneralizing can be beneficial in like marketing. But it's really not advisable if you're trying to provide an intellectually honest perspective. So yeah, I'm with you 100%. I am always, but personally, and like you said, it is about like individual preference. Personally, monogamy is like my thing, because I'm not about to be out here worrying about where you are, what you're doing. Are they coming in? It's to take my throne. And I do say throne because in your home, like that's your house. You're the king and queen of your home. And if there's always a risk.
I don't live that way, but that's fine. Me and my wife,
right.
people meet us.
Yeah.
They thought I was her. Like, we went to a lesbian bar, right? Together, and we were playing cards with them.
That's
and
awesome.
We sat at two different like tables. People thought I was her gay friend, because how I interact with women is so like easygoing.
So cool. Instead of being like, "Hey, girl, what's up?" Yeah.
So they thought that I was gay, and they thought that she was just a friend. And like, oh no, that's my wife. We've been together for like 17 years. Like, what?
Yo, and you are like a stellar example. Like, I have never, not gonna lie, I've never seen like a polygamous open marriage that's ever lasted. So bravo.
Oh yeah, years.
Bravo,
well, they also say sometimes that the woman is bisexual, the guy won't stay. Well, it's been a long time,
really?
But it has to do with how we treat each other. We treat each other, like I said, in a relationship anarchism. Neither of us are the king or queen, but we're both actually together. We do stuff communally. We talk. That doesn't mean we don't disagree. Oh, sometimes we disagree a lot.
Oh, I hope you do disagree, because there has to be.
Sometimes I will say things like, "Are you trying to hurt me?" And she'll say, "Well, no." And I go, "Well, then let's talk about it in a different way." See, instead of like getting offended, which I was offended,
are you trying to hurt
I clarify. Is that really what's the goal? Well, no, the goal is that you need to clean up or something. Okay, what would you like me to clean, or how could I do to become better in that? Like, she wants me to. Today she said, "I want you to sweep the floor more and to start mopping more." And I said, "Okay, I'll try to remember."
All right, that's great. Like that's great. But I'm just talking about like I have such a, but you all, Damien, what the hell? Can I just bottle and sell that level of like peace? Because I can't. Like, I couldn't imagine. I'm like, where are you, woman? Like, what are you? Like, who are you? Because like, but also in my home, it's dog eat dog. Like and that's how, like, and honestly, like, we're going back to like the playing of sports and like just having like
I don't like
competitive.
Sports. Maybe that's it.
Dude, I'm looking at this. It's 52-7. The Vols are up on the Tennessee Martin.
I actually don't even know how to play football, or actually, really, I don't know how to play any sport, really.
You know what? If God,
I did wrestling in high school, and that's it.
If God had seen fit to give me what I actually wanted, and I'm being facetious, obviously, in saying that, if I was, and I've thought about this, I'm like, well, I'm just very listen, if I was a dude, we would be having this conversation on my yacht, because I would be a professional athlete, hands down, period. Like, I already know that. So like I would be a football player, 100%. And but I wasn't allowed to play football, of course. And really, even though I loved it so much. Well, it should be, because I ain't about to be tackled by. Society should allow
women or men or trans people to be in sports. It's ridiculous how to me.
Oh, sure. But I ain't about to play against no, listen, I joke about being, I like, the whole, like, the kinky, a man should be, come here, woman. And I love that. But what did Serena Williams say? It's not about rights. It's about physical ability. She said, if I played against men, I'd be like the 200th. Like, I wouldn't be good. I wouldn't be able to compete. And that's just because they're bigger, stronger, faster, period.
Well, not all men are bigger. Not all men are faster.
Generally,
I'm just making
than women.
Comment that you're just saying at the top end of men.
No,
but
I'm not saying that.
So
I'm actually saying, if I went out here and put the high school girls up against the high school guys, and they, like, the boys are post-pubescent, they would shred them. And I hate that. Like in basketball, or like something that requires not like pool or something. But like I'm talking about like something that requires physical exertion, sexual dimorphism, because females have selected for protection purposes for larger, stronger males predominantly. And when it comes to those relationships, typically, and I will say typically because, and this is actually a subject that greatly interests me. Typically, when it comes to selecting for mates, Homo sapien females typically will select for larger, stronger males, which is purposeful because of the long period of gestation necessary to bring forth a Homo sapien baby, and that's redundant. And then the baby, unlike a horse or something born standing or able to stand and run right after birth to avoid being eaten, that baby is a burden up until probably it goes to college. I'm joking, but like, yeah, you know what I'm saying, like 3 or 4. So in selecting for that, we want those men who can fend off threats. So that's why we prefer that. So dimorphically, males are bigger and stronger.
But sexual dimorphism is not equal across all humans. Just so you know that it is not. It is. It's not. It's not equal.
I wouldn't say like there aren't.
If you look at different places in Europe as opposed to different places in Asia, Asia has a lot less sexual dimorphism. The male and females, they have a lot less.
They're smaller.
But
I'm saying is
the males are also small, and you go down to Africa.
Yeah, but she's smaller too.
Go to an indigenous tribe. I'm just saying that I'm not disagreeing that people have chosen. It's not just been women. Men have also been the dominant power.
They love that.
Able to choose.
They like them tiny.
Women. So yeah,
most women
tiny
like,
means that you don't fight me. Tiny means that you're afraid of me, so I don't even.
You're easy to move. Well, it also means, but that's not. And I'm speaking generally, of course, but like even in Asian countries, dimorphically, yes, they're smaller, but they're still like, okay, I'm sorry, comparatively to like European countries and other like South America, Africa. Yes, dimorphically Asian men are.
I'm just saying sexual selection.
Morphologically, Asian men are smaller.
On the female thing.
Oh no, sexual selection goes both ways, of course. But we also see that as well with male choice and female typically. And even though there are smaller, okay, this is the example I've got. I do underwriting and I have to review people's applications to apply for loans. I always find it incredibly interesting to look at how sexually dimorphic the couple is and look at their jobs and see how like socially they align with the scatter plot. And I always say scatter plot. That's how I think of things. And I think most of us do. On a scatter plot, you're going to have the concentration in the middle, of course, where the line is drawn. But of course, there's going to be outliers. So I always look and see. I'm always curious. And when the male is short, like 5'6", 5, 5, she's shorter. She's always been shorter. And I'm not saying that there's not a variant, but if he's short, she's shorter. So what I'm saying is that in human sexual selection, and even though it's becoming less dimorphic now, because, or at least in Western countries, because of the comfort of like, we have, a Ring doorbell now, I don't need you to like stand guard or outside the door, which, I mean, my point is this, yeah, things are easier for us now. We don't really like we don't have to have a big, strong man, but evolutionarily, that's what we've chosen for, and that's what we've selected for, and that's what most couples represent. So translating that into sports, because of that selection, listen, I don't want Aaron McDonald or Clay Matthews or any large middle linebacker coming at me with the intention of hurting me. I love football. I'm thinking about playing. I've been invited to play several times because, I do enjoy it, but I've not wanted to because I don't get money for it. But now I'm realizing there are other appealing things. So, but I don't want that. Listen, like Serena said, listen, I know my boundaries, and yes, equal rights for everybody. But listen, it'll change real fast. Have you seen the videos of the men fighting, even the gay men fighting women, and how the gay men beat the fucking shit out of those girls, and one girl cracked her skull because of all the progress, like, oh, everybody is okay, do it and
Well,
see
I
what
know that
happens.
I'm
Yeah,
6
fuck
foot,
that.
and I know that I grew 7.5 inches in one summer.
Phew.
So I know
Right.
that
When a male hits
but
puberty.
that doesn't actually mean that it justifies how people behave. People behave because we also set up a system where we do compete. And
Oh,
also I
well,
like
we're gonna do
women
that.
to not be taller than me. It just because it went to me personally when a
I
woman
don't like my
gets
man to be
taller,
smaller.
that
Yeah.
they start to feel to me more masculine, and I'm not attracted to that.
Boom.
But that's my own personal preference. I
Same.
also like all nationalities of women. Not everybody's like that. I don't think that there's
Same.
inherently something wrong for doing that. The sexual preference, once again, like people are gay. I'm not. But I also was born intersex, which means that I had some male and female in a sense in me. So
That's interesting.
how I view the world is also then, for me personally, I feel some male and some female. I don't feel totally male, and I'm not trans. I feel both, kind of. But
that's interesting. I like that. I can.
Well, society doesn't.
Yeah, no, they don't, and they don't like me either because I'm more like I'm with you when it comes to like mate selection. I don't want a girl who's taller than me. I don't. That's just not my preference. I want to feel like the masculine presence in the relationship. It would, and that's just me though. I'm sure everybody.
That's
and
all I
it's
was
not
making a comment too. It's just me.
right.
I don't
Yeah.
think it's the right way to have a relationship or no wrong way.
No, I don't think there's.
So that's all I was saying. Just like I said, to me, I think that someone could be celibate and not want to be with anyone. I think that's right if it's right for them.
God bless them. Yeah,
It's not me.
I started a
I know
a lesbian like meetup group just because it's hard out here in these streets to date, and it's like being celibate sucks. So yeah, and it like sucks. Yeah, so like yeah, bless them. But yeah, I have a friend who's asexual, and like do your thing. But like and back to people need to be safe regarding sports, and people need to I don't know, but I just
so let's get back to the atheism thing. So you had said you had wanted to do stuff. What are some other things you would like to do in the future? Or you said you wanted to debate or to do interviews. So
I love that. Yes. So my next thing that I want to move into is podcasting and interviewing. I love having conversations with people, getting their perspectives, and honestly learning how people do come out of religion. I want people to see these examples, to know it's possible, that you can see people just like you, especially African Americans. I mean, it's not going to be predominantly African American. I want a nice balance. But I want people to see that you can ask questions and be inquisitive, and and it's possible to change your mind about these beliefs, and that there's a gray area too. Like my whole objective is to get people to stop being so blindly religious. I don't want to deter people from being religious in general. I want them to just be more skeptical and be more insightful regarding their religious ideals. I do want Christianity, and I also have a dual goal of depleting the influence of Christianity in the United States because it is so detrimental politically, and
certainly Christian nationalism is. That's for damn sure.
Well, right. Yes. Thank you. So you said it. Yeah, it's a problem, a big one. I actually tweeted about
Well, because because I've met Christians that I could totally get along with, and then there's ones that there's no fucking way.
Yeah.
The people that I love the most in my life and the people that I look up to the most in my life are Christians. They are. My brother, I love him more than anything in the world. He's a Christian, a gay Christian. I'm like, Michael. He's like, yes, nobody gets it, but he explains it. But that's how he was raised, and there's comfort in that for him. And my uncle, my aunt, I love them dearly. My acting coach is a genius. My heroes, they're Christian. So that's fine. My problem is when like with my parents, they are rejecting me or mistreating my brother and saying he's got demons coming after him and we're not coming to your wedding or we're not going to recognize your, I'm not going to recognize my dad, so that's not my mother. But you're, you know, I'm like, are you going to love my adopted kids? No, they're going to be your grandchildren. No.
Exactly.
What? What are you talking about? My mom's like,
that-
I'll love them. I'm like, but you are equally, you're with him, right? So everything y'all do, you clearly said he's the head of the house and all of that. So you could be, and that's the problem, is that my mom, even though she's been more, I mean, she's wild too. Don't get, I mean, like when it comes to evangelical Christian nonsense,
I know.
Whoa. She's actually worse than my dad in a lot of ways in that regard. But like, I'm not going to I'm not bringing my wife around that nonsense. I'm not bringing my children. They're going to feel nothing but love and acceptance. And if you don't represent those ideals in my life, you're gone, you're done. So no way. Why would I put my kids? And yeah. So, I'm fighting that. And that's where the term beat the cult comes from. So, my intention is to really grow, over time. Just in the atheist community, because there are no Black female voices, period. Besides,
Even if there was ones, it doesn't mean that there shouldn't be more.
Yeah,
there should be, and I'm going to trailblaze that because I'm a conversationalist. I enjoy the debate, respectful conversations like with you guys. I love that we found a point of contention in our conversation. I hope
it didn't feel like we were ganging up on you.
Are you kidding? This is a dream. No, this is what I want.
Well, yeah, I told you, I have honest conversations. That's the kind I like. I like, healthy thinking. And to me, any idea that's since hides itself from challenge is just, fearing exposure, obviously.
Agreed. Thank you. And everything is up for discussion. And that's a big problem that I have with like the political climate today, is that no one wants to talk on either side. And it's just like, we need to talk and we need to be respectful. And just because someone doesn't agree with one thing that you say or doesn't understand, then that doesn't mean that they're this or that, or an ism or an obic or a phobic or something. Like you just got to be open to discussing things with people. And so that's the goal. I've always wanted to do that. So that's what I'm moving into next. I'm trying to learn how to do podcasting and editing.
Probably something to talk about. He does a podcast. I actually don't. I do videos, but I the whole time I've never desired really to do podcasting. So
I always thought your interviews were like excellent, like would be like great, like because some people have been telling me like watching videos, like being interactive, it's not something that they can do. So they wanted me to move into like just an audio platform. I'm sorry, they wanted, because I do some videos now, and that's, I'm going to be changing up, because right now I'm just doing like TikTok critiques, which is just like for fun, but I want to start moving into more actually substantive videos and topics.
Yeah.
And because there's no one out there, there's no Black female voices challenging apologists or representing the atheist perspective on a grand scale. So
you're welcome here anytime you want.
Thank you. You'll have me back. Thank you.
Oh, so much. When I do videos, generally I do it on a subject, unless I'm going to do an interview. I do it on a subject, like right now I've been teaching about Mesopotamia. How it went from kings and rulers, and then it goes to rulers, and I explain all the different rulers, so people can grasp that. I also, me and him did a thing where I start with no religion in a sense, or pre-religion, and then animism 100,000 years ago, 50,000 years ago, totemism in Europe, and then I talk about shamanism in Siberia, and then paganism in Turkey. And then we also talk about how then 7,000 years ago, capitalism to me starts to come in to where people are doing things, especially in Germany and Austria.
Capitalism. I would love, so that's one thing I would like to have a conversation with you guys about, is capitalism.
Yeah.
Because I am a fervent capitalist, and I
Yeah.
I want so much, and also, well, like a big reason I am as well because of my upbringing and not having anything and seeing what that translates to
But
when you do have
would you
it.
say that's the ethical system? Saying that I would like to be wealthy is not the same as saying the system of wealth hoarding is the greatest system, is the most healthy
It's not the
system
great.
for all people.
It's not the both.
Right?
Of course not. That's why I want wealth, is because it's not, and I ain't got it. Like that's why.
But
Yeah.
we're not arguing really that capitalism is the good system you should be. You're saying that as long as there is capitalism, you would like to be the one that's not suffering, which I would like to not suffer too. I mean, that's not the same as saying that I support. That's like when people say, well, I can't be an anti-capitalist like I am if I still wear clothes or have a car or buy a house. That's all nonsense.
Yeah.
I still have to live in this system.
Nuance. Yeah, exactly.
Are you telling me
you
there's
still
an
have to
equal
live.
system that's going to allow not, because this is another thing too, is let's just say that everything else that I could be okay with, which is not true, but let's just say I am not okay with people being homeless in the street. I'm not okay with the sexism, the racism, the homophobia that capitalism is just fine with.
Yeah.
I'm not. And I'm not okay with rainbow capitalism, where it tries to make money off the gay community. I mean,
corporations slapping rainbow flags on things.
On everything and like pride and I'm like, what? Like even
I think that there should be pride. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying
this is an Apple band. Like, why are you?
So you get what I'm saying, but
you don't really care about but like.
But also,
signaling.
Me and Cory are going to have a video where we talk about pseudoscience, pseudo-history, and pseudo-morality, whatever kind of stuff. And we're also going to do a show on philosophy where I explain and talk about me with him, which you can join too. We talk about philosophy, how to understand axiology, how to dissect concepts and things and be able to utilize them more effectively.
That would be, that's excellent. I'm actually in the process of trying to attain more knowledge regarding the history of religion and how it's evolved. I'm really curious about it specifically from a psychological standpoint and like a biopsychological standpoint because it's so persistent, yet it is absolutely nonsensical. So I know there's not like I just got finished reading Why We Believe in Gods by Dr. Andy Thompson, who is a psychologist. And he talks a lot about how religious practice is a byproduct of the basically the evolution of the human species and our socializing with each other and how that's led to our survival. So the ability to project thoughts, theory of mind, anticipating what someone else is thinking in order to determine the best course of action when interacting with them. I
have a psychological background. So obviously, I have a degree in psychology.
That should have been.
That is my degree. Actually, they made me take classes on religion, and that's what got me into archaeology and stuff. I don't have any schooling in that. I just have the last 15, 17 years, whatever it is, since 2006. I've been trying to learn the history of religion. So
I'm trying to get caught up to you now.
Well, I have videos. Me and Cory did several videos, and I have blogs to go with those videos. And if you click on the blog, they're long. There's all kinds of links and references because I don't just make claims without backing it up with references.
Good. Please don't. And that's why I really want to continue to work with you guys, because I want to share that knowledge because there is so much information. And I am pivoting into the Faith Instinct by Nicholas Wade right now from Why We Believe in Gods. But I want to get back to, I kind of want to treat it like I did when I completed my thesis. And I was doing all types of research and accruing resources. And the research was actual research, peer-reviewed, published research. So that's what I want to do. But there's a lot out there that I don't know. So I always want to interact with people who know more than me on this so I can gain.
Well, a lot of times I've drawn art, right? So I'm an artist also.
So yeah, you are.
So I take actual concepts of archaeology and I put them all in a picture. But if you look, and I'm trying to do it to update my website, so all pictures have a whole bunch of references. But you can see that all the references I use to come up with that art. And sometimes sometimes I have like 30 references for one picture because there's that much going on.
Wow, that's really it's genius, actually. That's genius. I love that. I want to look at that.
So if I were you, if you want to learn about my and Cory's already done it with me, but I think it's 7 videos where I explain religion from 300,000 all the way down to 4,000. And even at the 4,000 video, an archaeologist, right, he's a college professor, he said, this is great stuff. I wish he'd have said that to all the videos, but at least he said it to one of them.
Yeah,
that's very flattering. I like that.
But so before, when I was on LinkedIn, at least probably almost half of the people I interacted with were anthropologists, archaeologists, historians. Because I didn't even try for atheists. Really, atheists is more something I've been trying now, but also I've been trying for socialists and anarchists. But when I was Facebook, I had probably I would say 70% atheists. I had humongous atheist following. But then when I got kicked off of there because I said I got kicked off there. Mad at me saying something against Trump. But so they banned me because I said that Hispanics voting for Trump to me is like Jews saying they want to vote for Hitler, and they banned me.
Did you say Jews? That's why they said it. That's why they banned you.
Because I said the Jews voting for Hitler, and so they banned me.
That might get you banned. Yeah.
they kicked me off forever. They permanently banned from Facebook. But so
you got shadow banned. Yeah, so banned to the shadow realm.
They can't go back. I tried. Nope, we're not letting you back in. Right. Anyway, so then I went to LinkedIn and I started focusing more on archaeology and stuff that I was caring about. That's cool. So I was interacting with, and I would show them my ideas and talk to them and stuff. And at first, also, that's also the pivot I made to start realizing my own concepts, because they would say this or that, and I would look at the evidence as a whole. Because a lot of times, to me, not that they're trying to, but archaeologists will focus on a region or a theme or a time of, like, say, Neolithic only, which is like 12,000 to 5,000 or something. So I realized I needed to look at everything all over the earth to get a better perspective. Because if I'm going to say I know what religion is, I needed to have a better grasp at the whole corpus of it.
You just said it, and that's so important to me. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm having it's such a vast topic. I'm having difficulty pinpointing where I really want to break into it. And so I started with the why we believe in gods, but I want to be more research focused. So
you watch our videos, the 7 videos, and if you read the blogs, because I already done tons of work, and if anything you doubt, just click it.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions, I'm more than willing to talk about it. Especially,
thank you.
It would be great to have a video where you explain what your questions are or your thinking, and then I can show you why and what. Just like recently, and you may not know, but Indo-European language is said to have been about 7,000 years ago in Ukraine. And then a new study said, no, it happened in Armenia or in Eastern Turkey. Well, the problem is both look true. The reason why one looks more true linguistically, the other one looks more true in a DNA. But
like when we developed the ability for speech.
My theory, though, is it actually split beforehand. Some goes north, some goes down. So it was, in a sense, these connected things, but from previous in Asia. And I have a whole bunch of reasons and stuff backing up why that is to me the case. And because
so dope.
That would explain why these two theories seem to say true but contradictory things. Because
have you thought of debating?
They're connected.
Have you thought of debating? I feel like you would slay at that.
Oh no, I have debated before, but also See, the problem is I don't get into trying to win. I want to teach. So
okay, I see what you're saying.
So the fact, because the reason I'm saying is, if like now, I would rather you and me, or with Cory or whatever, explain my theory, which I do actually want to do. We should do a video on Indo-Europeans, because I know that a lot of people have a big opinion about that. It's very popular. But my theory is actually, I think it's a connection to the Asian languages that start, which they've already now proved just recently, that Japanese, Korean, Chinese, Turkish, Mongolian, all originally same language, or same language family, I should say. It's called
that was until they started to build they all had the same language until they tried to build a tower, and then God told them no.
I'm talking about 9,000 years ago. Millet farmers, which millet's a type of grain, millet farmers in northeast China is where all this comes from. The thing is, millet goes from China to the Black Sea area, Ukraine, 7,000 years ago. 7,000 years ago is about the time between 7 and 5 they think that the Indo-European languages start. So the fact that these people, and then everywhere that millet goes, all the languages from Japanese to Korean, they all are related, and Turkish, all these are related to millet spread. So the fact that this offshoot shoots its way over here to Europe, and all of a sudden a new language comes up, I think is very related. Also,
I think that's interesting.
Also, people from Iran 7,000 years ago, right? Because Iran is where the people, I think, the one went into Armenia. The Iran shoots over to Israel. And it's a fact that 65,000 to 5,000 people from Iran and Turkey go into Israel.
Okay.
Well, that exact area in northern Israel and what's it there? The brain farted. What other? I can't remember. But anyways, next to Israel, there's this other place. Anyways, that area is where 6,000 years ago it is plotted that that's where Semitic languages come from. And if you look at a map at where the people would have came from Iran, and you look at where Israel is, and you go just draw a line straight across, right where almost Israel is where these areas supposedly of the first Semitic. And Semitic is a branch of the Afro-Asiatic from North Africa, but it's not directly related. In other words, it splits off. Anyways, language is a big deal to me because
it's very interesting. It's super interesting.
The reason why to me it was important to learn that kind of stuff is I wanted to figure out how religion spread, because religion spread with culture, and language is part of the culture. And I also figured out when did animals move, and where and when they moved also tells you what people are moving. And you see culture changing and beliefs changing. And then also, so
I right up my alley. I love that. That's dope.
So I figured out where the DNA went, where the language went, where the pottery went, where the animal husbandry went, and then you see the religion. Oh, well, no shocker that it changes when all this stuff does that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. Yeah, Thompson talks about that, and I want to expand on that knowledge as well. And I want to get that knowledge, because that is going to be helpful in explaining to people why they're so indoctrinated, where that indoctrination came from, and how it's not special. And that's why that was a pivotal realization for me as a child, when I understood that my mom's dedication to Christianity is no different than this individual's dedication to Islam, or someone else's dedication to paganism. And when the Jehovah's Witnesses come to the door and they start arguing with each other, and I'm just like, Mom, why are you arguing? Leave them alone. Why? Well, they need to go away. But why are y'all arguing over the same thing? It's silly. So that was hilarious. That was a funny moment in my life. They came to the door.
I think it is good to learn, and I'm glad that you're interested. You should definitely check it out. And then we can.
I'm going to do this the rest of my life. I would like to get a doctorate in theology, it's such a worthless. Like if my degree in child development and family studies wasn't worthless, and this, but but I did it because I was passionate about it. That's what I care about. Of course, if I was functional and a smart person, I would get a degree in business or something that will be paying my, well, this will pay my bills. This is what I'm going to do. But I want to be successful and also the business side of it as well. But I want a doctorate in theology. I want to study this and I want to really change minds. I do. I want to debate
I think
people.
it's changed mine. Learning all this stuff actually has changed a lot of my opinions.
Exactly.
Even
That's
like
what changed my mind.
I was a lot more, I would say, mean atheist, but the more I learned, the more I realized, oh, fuck, this is culture. Oh man.
That's why Skeptic Nikki, I was kind of glad Skeptic Nikki kind of that's why I was like, is this how I want to go about this? Because Skeptic Nikki was mean. And I'm still kind of mean to like, well, like I have this thing. Yeah, you're right. Like his culture, and you got to be like empathetic to that. But I am very hard on like Christian men though, because
I try to be hard on behavior.
Okay, there you go. They have this ideal and this behavior that they're supposed to be the head of the house and all this and all that, and but then you're coming around me talking about, Jesus wrote a love letter to me through the Bible, and he is my everything. And I know there are men in my family that talk like this, and it's, to me, I use the word desiccating all the time. It is desiccating. And I'm very tough on them. I'm like, you want to be the head of my house, but you're over here simping for another man. I would rather him be the head of my house. And, like, this is my mentality. If you want me to be you want to be the head of my house, you better be the head. Okay? Like, don't try to, I'm very hard on them.
But a lot of that stuff, once again, though, a lot of that stuff has to do with Paul and not really Jesus. Jesus actually said that a woman's place, because I think Mary says to Jesus, or Martha or something, says to Jesus that the woman should go back in the kitchen, and he said no, she should stay here. She's the wise one to stay here and learn. So Paul's the one that
Paul and I have a problem talking about being silent. What?
Right. But that's what I'm saying. And Paul was saying that because he was, in a sense, a Roman. He was culturalized to be different. It wasn't something he learned distinctly from being an Aramaic Christian like Jesus was, if he was a person.
Well, I will say this one is super hard on women, and it's actually, when I did the video on abortion this past week, I posted quite a few verses of women being mistreated, dismembered, the bitter water. A lot of people didn't know about the bitter water because Christians have this high in my mother is one. Like abortion is like her, well, not her one. Well, it's not her one thing, but her most fervent, passionate topic. But bitter water is an abortion. So she's pregnant by another man. The whole objective is to wipe out that baby to make sure that she doesn't reproduce with another man, and that the father or the husband isn't paying for another man's offspring. People don't admit that.
Well, to me, you already start off with a book at the beginning of Genesis, where a God supposedly is unhappy with people, so he murders all the adults and all the babies and everybody.
Yeah.
You there, Nikki?
Did we lose her?
Oh, I'm here. I was just like, we're spazzing. I'm just gonna wait for it to come back.
So I was saying that the beginning, and to me, morality is lost at the beginning. Genesis already there's no morality because the deity supposedly kills every human on the entire earth, supposedly, except a few people. Right. That would be all the children, the babies.
I mentioned that too.
Even if a just deity felt that these beings, he could have done it without torture, could have done it without killing. And then the Jesus story is another horrific thing. Could not have a God just accepted, since it's his own rules, that you don't need, you can just ask for forgiveness, not say that somebody had to die and be tortured. I mean, the fact that's sick in the head.
Rules. It's somebody hires rules.
Right. I actually tweeted about that this past week. I put a picture of Jesus hanging on the cross, bloodied, and I said, think about it. Think about it. This is the simple. this is the symbol that was chosen to represent this ideology. That's fucked. Like, just straight up said, it's fucked. And but I get it. I understand culturally where it emerged from. But y'all, it's the 21st century. You'll have to forgive me. Sometimes the y'alls come out. I am from Tennessee. I'm very Southern, extremely Southern. So yes.
Cory's from Canada, so he says A, right?
On occasion, I do say
Canadian. I picked up the Canadian accent. That's awesome. I try to. I was actually raised not to sound like I'm from the South, or I was raised to sound as, I guess, vague as possible when it comes to like speaking to people.
Just a general American.
Well, like I said, me in general, Cory is very similar, but me in general, I'm a relationship anarchist. I don't judge people, and I don't find that to be an attribute worth judging. You're
as long as your family isn't going out here messing with people and like, as long as you're not hurting your children or
they care about how people talk and what slang they use. I just find that to be just like saying what kind of color shirt you wear and like.
Well,
whatever.
I mean, it does depend. Is it football Saturday in Knoxville? Are you wearing a red shirt? Then you might get, like last weekend. Last weekend was one of the best. Yeah, I know you guys don't want sports, but yeah,
Well, Cory might like sports. I just said I don't speak for him. I was saying I don't like sports.
Okay, that's probably the most offensive thing I've heard. No, I'm joking.
I know. I'm a very extreme. I was the strongest guy in my entire high school, and yet I even got an award my freshman year. I got Iron Man award. I just got a strongest, just most aggressive person on the wrestling team as a freshman.
Nice.
But I don't like sports. My aggression is actually from abuse. I became a mild sociopath. I've talked about that before. Sociopath is different than a psychopath. Psychopath is more born, like genetically. Sociopath's more like environment produces. But I became more aggressive just towards everything. And because I think of it this way, it's almost it's a form of PTSD. It's like being in war or shell shock, where in a sense where I feel like the whole world was against me, so I was against the whole world.
Oh no, that makes sense. It's a defense mechanism.
So I became extremely aggressive, and actually that's now why it's so amazing and wonderful that I choose kindness now, because I realized that just because of what, in other words, I try to tell people I am not the thing abuse made. For me, that's a big deal.
I like that. That's, you know what? You want to be better. You do. You want to be better than your parents
or better even than my nature, because it's not in my nature now to be kind. I'm kind by choice, which makes me feel higher character, because it's not something I just as a default feel. Like you said, I would be dominant extremely. I would not have a egalitarian relationship if it was my nature. I would dominate. In fact, at the beginning of it, I told her she needed to put nail polish on because I like it. Wear the certain cologne because I like it. Wear dresses because I like it. And she says, I don't like dresses. I don't like nail polish. And I don't like putting on cologne every day. And I had to go,
damn it.
Right,
right. Well, that sucks. But because I think about that too. Yeah, you shouldn't. It sucks that they don't, like, if like your partner, if you want them to do a certain thing, like, I like it when you wear this color.
But I realized that she is her own person.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that was my journey to become more relationship anarchism. That I love her anyways? Yes. Well, then is that really have to, or is just I'd like to?
Right. Sure. And like you said, you've got preferences. Everyone has preferences, but there's still room for deviation within those preferences. So.
Well, she's let me deviate quite a lot. We've had threesomes, I mean, with women. So I've got to deviate from a normal, in a sense, marriage.
That's a dream for a lot of men.
Right.
No, that's a dream for me.
Wow.
But
I'm just saying is so. But yet there's other things that are hard no's for her, or she would prefer not to. And I had to realize, do I care about her or just about me?
Yeah. And the relationship too.
Well, because a lot of people say, I would die for you. And I always think, yeah, but would you live for them?
Yeah,
That's
there
my
you
goal.
go.
Not
I
just the
like that.
dying part.
Yeah. Well, you're more beneficial alive to me. So please live for me. Yeah. So
Right,
I like
but I
that.
mean, live for you not as in trying to stay alive. I mean,
I know what you
change
mean.
my life
Yeah.
to be more acclimatable to a union, not just it's all me.
Right. Oh yeah. I agree. I look
But
forward
anyways,
to that.
why don't you go ahead and we're going to wrap it up. Why don't you go ahead and tell us whatever you want about your stuff and your
Oh,
channel and
yeah.
hype you up.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so I do have a YouTube channel, Beat the Cult, right now. I'm working on doing 2 to 3 videos a week. I think I'm working up to that. So the videos are gonna be coming more frequently. Please check that out on YouTube. I don't really use Instagram that much, but I do have an Instagram, Beat the Cult, and Twitter is mostly where you can find me. Um, Beat the Cult. Yeah, it's all the same. So, and then I have an email, beatthecult@gmail. So if you have ideas for videos, or if you guys, I do get notifications, but yeah, just you can reach out to me that way as well. But yeah, I'm gonna be moving over the next few months, years. I want to do this full time. So it's new, but I feel like I could maybe be successful at it if I put
Right on.
forth some effort.
Well, you
But
can certainly give your effort.
yeah. And I'm a little competitive. So that's I'm
Right
I
on.
like competitive against myself predominantly. It's you against you. So that's I tell myself that all the time. But I tell everyone that too. It's you against you. There's no God to save you. Sorry. I know it's hard to accept, but
Well, I appreciate you coming on here. Cory,
yeah.
could you go ahead and tell us about the stuff that you're doing?
I am working on a script right now for some anarchist theory for my next
Oh.
video. I'm producing my recent interview with Damien for the upcoming episode of my YouTube show and podcast. So you can
Cool.
find that at skepticalleftist.com.
Skeptical
And
Leftist. Oh yeah, you were my
I'm
DM.
at Skeptical Lefty
At
on
Skeptical
Twitter.
Lefty. I would love to have some more conversations with you guys on those topics because I have some predispositions regarding those like ideas, and I'm always curious about it because when I hear anarchy, I think anarchy. Anarchy. What was that movie where this kid like
That's
screamed
what you're supposed
anarchy
to
and then
think.
started tearing shit up?
They've propagandized that until it means not. It doesn't mean the same thing to people.
Right.
That it
I
does
try
to
to
those who believe
explain
in
it for people that don't know.
Exactly.
I try to explain it like this: anarchy, it can be considered a behavior. It also can be considered a political philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think of it as a little bit different. When it's a behavior and not being guided by a political philosophy, it can simply be that there's no control.
Right.
Not that has to end up in violence, but just that there's no control, in a sense, as a behavior. But
Right.
as a political philosophy, it's about how to organize things in a non-hierarchical way is one of the things. And also it's about equalitarianism. It's about justice. It's about equality, in the sense of even distribution of, resources. Like in the anarchist mentality, no one owns the earth. People may draw lines. The countries change over time, and they've been held by power. But there's actual no land, like say the America was originally native land. So I mean,
I was just thinking that was the whole theme of the song "Colors of the Wind" and Pocahontas. So
okay.
What I'm trying to say is, so to grasp that's how an anarchist thinks. That the whole world matters, not nationalism, which is the opposite in the sense of an anarchist. Like to me, it'd be stupid to say I'm a nationalist anarchist. What the hell does that mean?
Right. They're contradictions.
okay. So anarchy doesn't just mean like everything's like everyone do your own thing. There's no systems. There's no support. You can go.
Yes and no. It's complicated.
So where's the protection?
Well,
in
the
anarchy?
easiest, because we protect each other.
Yeah.
No one's going to do that.
So
people
say,
you guys will.
Well, people do. Well,
my neighbor's crazy. I don't trust them.
Well, but that's like saying that people don't inherently want to feed the poor, but they do. There is people that do. There's people besides religion or non-religion. I'm non-religious and I've given to the poor. I've given to homeless.
Defectors. the defectors.
But there's a difference so anarchism is about realizing the value of things. To me, the value of things that in other words, like to me, there shouldn't be ever a thing called racist anarchist, because an anarchist is the belief that all of us have value. Every plot of earth where there's a human on, I care about, because those are my people.
That's not to say that anarchists don't have biases based on the culture they were brought up in, obviously.
I was going to say, I feel like this is a very specified definition of anarchy, and that if I spoke to someone else, they would feel something different.
Oh, there's tons and tons and tons of anarchist theory out there.
Right.
So there's, as Damien and I argue against anarchist nihilists or
yes,
egoist anarchists. And
I have less favor for them. They also, yes.
Where I identify as an anarcho-communist or
communism.
There's anarcho-syndicalism. There's all kinds of.
Well, I call myself an anarcho-socialist, but I took a test. I actually am more closer to Cory, an anarcho-communist. But I would say probably it's more accurate. I'm a collectivist.
Okay.
Yeah. Just in how because it goes back to, like I said, how I run a relationship. We don't have, in a sense, hierarchy at all, and yet we're still really working together. But yet we still have common but separate goals.
Okay.
So I believe that we working together but like I said, we can have a whole thing to talk about that.
If you don't mind it, that interests me because
I love talking about it.
Yeah, because my ideals are, personally, I'm, like I said, very capitalist, very competitive. So my thought is,
well, but I don't
take as much as you can for your family.
As you think. Because when I asked you, is capitalism the moral system, you said no. So you're just saying under this system, you would like to be benefited. That's not the same as being that this is a good system. You see what I'm saying?
But I don't know if I would want to bring in another system, because my thing is, I'm sorry, I don't know. I want to talk about this more, because
we'll talk about it more.
My ideal is power is power. And even in a socialist system or any system, someone still has power. And
the problem is a lot of people say communist, and they're actually referring to Marxist-Leninism, which is authoritarian communism.
They will make apologetics for like Stalin and shit like that, and that's not what I believe in at all.
Okay. That's why I wanted to talk about it more.
I'm just making a comment. So a lot of it's like atheists. People don't know the difference between atheist and skeptic, and don't know the difference between a non-theist or an agnostic or ignostic, like I am. I'm an ignostic with an I, meaning the concept of God to me, you're just gibbering words.
It's nonsense.
Exactly. It's nonsensical. So the discussion is.
But I'm saying most people, they don't even know what that is, including some people even in the atheist community don't know what I in fact, even when I talk about axiology, a lot of people feel like, I'm talking above them or past what they understand. But that doesn't mean that there's not these understandings. And that's why I said I want to have a thing where I explain this, and you're definitely welcome. The people asking questions or not knowing or even, challenging and having different thinking, this is a good thing. So,
because I want to, I don't really interact with, like, of course, in the United States, in the South, there's not going to be a lot of people advocating for those ideas. So I, but also too, like, man, I don't know. Like, I really do want to talk about that more, because
we'll set stuff up. Yeah. Like I said, right now we have, we're going to take this next. I do it every 2 weeks. I do one video.
Oh,
so every Saturday I do
like your filming schedule. Well, thank you for having me. I'm sorry I was late. That's so rude.
No, that's fine.
I'm gonna be on time.
We'll have you again. I was just saying. So I have the next coming up Saturday, second Saturday, we're going to take off. Mm-hmm. But then after that, we're going to go back to show 8 about Mesopotamia, about the Gudian rule when the people from Iran came and took over southern Mesopotamia. Okay. It was actually at the time run by the I think it's Arcadians. I think I remember right. Yeah. And they are Semitic. They were, like, in a sense, they took over the Sumerians. Anyways, we're gonna.
I'm sorry, Tennessee Martin just scored on us, and I don't understand how that's possible. So I got distracted. I apologize.
No problem.
I don't know how they have 14 points. I don't.
Yeah.
Should be.
Well, we're going to go ahead
No
and end it. But yes, we will set stuff up, and you're welcome to join. We've done it before.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And when I eventually get everything going, I would love to have you guys on my podcast, on the Beat the Cult podcast.
Right on.
So I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome.
Thank you.
To me, we rise by helping each other.
That's so true. That is, we need each other. And that's important. I want to build good relationships in the community and foster good relationships as well. So thank you guys.
All right, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, and welcome to my channel. I am Damien Marie AtHope. In the simplest terms, I am an atheist-humanist philosopher and prehistorical writer-researcher at DamienMarieAtHope.com. I am specifically an axiological atheist. An axiological atheism can be thought to involve ethical and value theory reasoned and moral argument driven apatheism, agnosticism, atheism, antitheism, antireligionism, secularism, and humanism. Axiological atheists can be understood as a value theory or a value science atheist. As an axiological atheism's ethically reasoned and constructive pro-humanity. I am an axiological thinker, value theorist. The science of goodness, worthiness, usefulness, valuableness, virtue, reliableness, accuracy, validity, morality, integrity, beneficialness, etc., etc. We axiologists have a value consciousness. And in general, we see the architecture of humanistic humanitarianism value in people that we see as dignity beings. Places and things are not. Axiology is a value theory. In its broadest sense, it involves areas of philosophy that are deemed to encompass some evaluative or evaluation aspect. Therefore, it crosses almost all domains in some way or another. Now for a more detailed terms as to what I am. I am an axiological atheist, an anti-theist, an anti-religionist, secularist, humanist, rationalist, writer, artist, poet, philosopher, advocate, activist with schooling in psychology, sociology, as well as I am an autodidact, self-taught in science, archaeology, anthropology, and philosophy. I promote science and am against pseudoscience, pseudo-history, pseudo-morality, things that are found in religion.